everything in a couple minutes. So we're actually going to start with some humanity gameplay. So I know it's kind of caught your eye when it first showed up. They did a whole gameplay breakdown that's like 25 minutes long of the game that's coming. I think it's in May, if I'm not mistaken.
Cool.
Forgot who it was made by though.
The same team that did Tetris Effect.
Oh right, yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so let me check sound real quick. E, feel free to just jump in or whatever. We're really laissez faire with this. So just any kind of
Okay.
conversation you want to jump in, just go for it. Or if you want to bring up something during the week or whatever case may be, you know.
You got it.
Yeah, we'll check the sound. Good to
Yeah, so
go.
while you go to do that, we usually start like once we do our intros and whatnot. We usually start with the games that we've been playing in the past week. Just
Okay.
kind of catching people up to speed with that. And it doesn't have to be like just games. Like it could be a
hmm
TV show that you're really into currently, or a book, a movie, whatever you're currently doing in the past week or whatever you want to talk
All
about.
the nerd culture in
Exactly,
general.
exactly.
All right.
We got
Love
a
it.
lot to talk about too. We're good on sound. So
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Let me see where the hell did I put this thumbnail? Um,
I think you
okay.
threw it to our DMs, but
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Are we all ready to start?
yeah, good to
Yep.
go.
I'm ready.
Cool. Guys, welcome to the 98th episode of the Dualshock and Sense podcast. I am your host, Soul, the connoisseur of anime waifus, joined by we're missing 1/3 of the usual group. Macho, what happened to him? Is he still? Did he have a late night at the strip club again, or what happened?
Yeah, I texted him. He said that he's wiping the crust off his eyes and crust a cup somewhere else. I couldn't exactly, to pinpoint where it was. And the text was all mumbled and jumbled, kind of like how he
Oh,
talks in
okay.
the podcast.
Right.
Um, so yeah, long night at the strip club at a Easy Ease strip club down in Florida. But yeah, I think so. I think so.
That's crazy. We need to have like an intervention for him because this is one too many times that he's missing the podcast for the strip club.
I think so. We're nearing 100 episodes, and already this man missed like at least 20 of them. So
Yep, that's right. But we do have Macho here. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Sorry, I was reading a tweet. I'm doing
Oh,
really good, but it's been a crazy couple of weeks because honestly, we're moving to this bi-weekly format for the podcast. It's actually been a little better since we actually have stuff to talk about more, but it's also good just for health wise, man, because I was sick like a dog the last week.
mm,
So started Monday, and I decided to still go to work, be really stubborn about it, kind of blunt force it, and every day I came home, no kidding, would take Harley out, uh, put him back in a crate, and then just go to sleep. I did that consistently for like 3 or 4 days last week, and I got better at Friday. Saturday I fucked up. Saturday we had people over, and then my boy, he came from the Bahamas, I think. He brought this rum that when we mixed it with Coca Cola, bro, it tasted just like vanilla Coke. So
Mm.
I was down in that. I got like 3 or 4 drinks. The next morning, I woke up with cotton mouth. My throat was sore again. So I was sick again the last week, and I just decided to take the days off from work and just chill and actually recuperate. So I'm feeling better, thankfully. I feel I still have a little bit of congestion if you guys can hear it, but thankfully feeling better. But on Thursday, I was feeling well enough. I actually went to go see Evil Dead Rise in theaters. Uh,
nice.
there's
How was
only
that?
it was good. It was really good. I was really apprehensive about going because I'm a little more squeamish to like excessive gore and kind of like that torture gore in movies now. But Evil Dead really has a really good fine line of having things that are disgusting, but at the same time kind of funny, dark humor. It's not like Terrifier where it's like torture porn. It's like it's actually really comical gore. But there's a couple more that did close my eyes. I will attest to that. But I thought it was really good. It's a really good ramp up from the 2013 remake or reboot that I really liked, and I think this one did a really good job. Like the whole apartment aesthetics, the choices for the shots in this movie were just incredibly eerie and creepy, and it was good, man. It was definitely worth going to go see in the theaters and kind of overcoming my fear of grotesque gore in movies. So definitely worth a go if you guys get a chance to go see it. But yeah, man, that was kind of my couple weeks just bundled up there.
Mm, nice. I've never seen an Evil Dead movie, but I feel like I should since I generally like Sam Raimi as a filmmaker. So like, I feel like that's something on my bucket list. I need to cross off at some point.
Well, the
Um,
originals are. Have you seen the Evil Dead movies?
I have.
Because
Horror is not
because
like my biggest genre,
because
but
the
yeah,
because
but
the originals are way different from like the remake or the reboots, right? In terms
yeah.
of tone, yeah.
hmm And yeah, because yeah, I'm not like a big horror person. Like I do partake in them every now and again, but it's not the one that I run out to go to. It's not being squeamish or anything like that, but I've always been more drawn to like comedies and action and stuff like that. But you know, stuff like Evil Dead, Scream, movies like that, I always do enjoy. So I definitely have to make sure to check that out. And my wife doesn't do horror at all, so that makes it harder to like go and see some of these movies.
yeah, for sure.
She's at all. you know, so because even if we
Um,
go to see like a movie and there's like a trailer where like birds are hitting windows or there's like a kid sitting in the hallway and the parents like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm not." No, she's covered her face. She can't do it.
Yeah, my wife's the same way. That's why I have to go to these movies alone, which is fine because
Uh-huh.
I don't mind doing that. But yeah, she can't do horror either, so I feel you on that one.
Yeah, it's funny, man.
so obviously you guys have already noticed that we do have another person here on the podcast, and that is Eve from God, it's crazy because like I feel like I've been hearing you for years on like other podcasts like
Mhm.
Crossfire and just podcasts with like B Money and Downey and Samuel Tolbert and people like that.
Right.
But yeah, man, welcome. How you doing?
Thanks, man. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm not like officially on a pod anymore. I was on Brap for I want to say 7 8 years. Like when Enrique first started Brap,
Oh, right,
I
yeah.
was like one of his first guests, and then became one of his first official panel members. Um, but just kind of stepping back, like life is just it gets in particular like the last couple of years, life has just been a little bit crazy. So it's kind of hard to just even at times get in the game time and then also dedicate, week to week to podcasting and stuff like that. So I just kind of took a step back, kind of chill and gaming perspective with Sam Tolbert and Nicholas Downey. We took a little bit of a hiatus there, trying to figure out what we're going to do like with that show. Just again, life getting in there. Nick's had a son recently, so just trying to settle into his new life and moving and stuff. But always down to jump around and guest on pods. So it's an honor that you guys asked me to be on, man. And it's the same. So like I feel like I've known you without meeting you, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and just no, it's great to be on, man. I appreciate you guys.
Cool. We appreciate you jumping on for sure. So yeah, we are actually before we get to the things that we've been playing this past week, want to remind everyone to go ahead and like the podcast, share it out, all that good stuff, and consider subscribing to the channel as well. We would greatly appreciate it. So yeah, let's move on to the things that we've been playing, watching, all that good stuff. Um, Macho, if you don't mind, I'm gonna jump in here first because I don't have a lot.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, that I did. Um, so let's see. In terms of games, I went back and I remedied a gaming sin that I had and finally dusted off Dishonored 1 and
Oh,
decided to play that because I come on this podcast week after week and
Love
and
it.
and say that Dishonored 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, and but I never played the first one, so I was like, you know what, let me actually get to that game, and it's
Mhm.
fantastic, man. I'm really enjoying it. um this franchise, and this might be a hot take, but it's gotten to the point where it's like my favorite like Bethesda property to the point that like if Bethesda slash Xbox was to announce tomorrow that hey, Dishonored 3 is coming, I would run out and get an Xbox like immediately. Like
Wow.
I
Bro,
adore
you
this
would hear an
franchise.
audible scream from South Florida if they announced Dishonored 3, man. I've been dying to get Dishonored back, bro. Yeah. You're speaking my language right now, bro.
Yeah,
That's like, yeah.
yeah, I adore it, man. It's just so fun that like they plop you down into like in a level, and they're like, go figure it out, go reach your target in whatever way you think
Hmm.
you can, basically. And I don't know, it's just so fun. And like it's funny because whenever I do get the option to go like completely stealthy in games, I usually take it. Like I am that patient gamer who will watch the routes that guards do over and over and over again to memorize, like, okay, like when should I move, like the exact timing that I should, move and to not be spotted or whatever. Like that's the type of gamer that I am with these games. So like I don't know, I just find that kind of stuff like really, really satisfying to pull off, to move
Yeah.
through an entire level without being detected, without killing anybody.
The
Yeah.
true antisocial, antisocial part of Soul. How can I
Exactly.
move? How can I move this environment without being seen or heard by anybody?
It makes sense, man. The games that I play,
And they're
same
so
thing with Hitman.
brilliant. Arcane are like masters at it, man. It's so brilliant, like the gameplay. And then you get outcomes based on how you do it,
Yeah,
how you go about it. It's like, yeah, and it's
exactly.
so replayable in that regard.
Exactly. How did you feel about, so what's funny is that I love, Dishonored 1, Dishonored 2.
Hmm.
Um Deathloop didn't really do it for me. How did you feel about
Right.
that one?
Um, I see. I'm an Arcane fan, so I might give them a little bit more grace than some. But
Right.
Deathloop was definitely different. I could see where they were kind of trying to go with it, and from what I understand, I haven't played Prey Moon Crash, but I have played the full game of Prey, and I love that game too. But they said Moon Crash's ideas are where Deathloop was kind of born from. And they say if
Mhm.
you play Moon Crash, it's a better version of what Deathloop was trying to do. So I have that on my docket, to get to. But Deathloop overall, I dug, but I could absolutely see why people it didn't gel with everybody, especially if you're coming off of Dishonored and looking for that arcane DNA. It's like as an idea, there were parts of it that didn't feel fleshed out.
Yeah.
You know, as far as you had the openness to kind of go in and do what you wanted, try to get the mission done the way you wanted to, but it didn't feel open, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
for sure.
they're saying like, okay, well, here's the objective, go for this. But then when you try to go for it, it's like, but it feels like you're still trying to kind of pushing me to do it this particular way.
Yeah.
Where Dishonored is sort of like, oh, I'm gonna wait up here and I'm gonna like hit this guard with this, and then I'm gonna jump down and I'm gonna go for the target, and then it gives you like these things. So yeah, I don't know. It's like weird. Like I like the ideas of it, and overall I enjoyed the game. But yeah, Deathloop is different. It's definitely different. So I understand when if it didn't click for you.
Yeah, yeah. Like I have so many complaints with that game, but I think like at the top of the list is just like the set. Like I just didn't have fun going through those like four like levels or whatever like
Right.
over and over again. And so like I was thinking back to Dishonored 2 and like thinking about like obviously the Clockwork Mansion, that one level where you're like kind of like
Oh my
bouncing back and
god.
forth between like the
Yeah.
timelines, right? That level too, and it's just like there's nothing even in Dishonored 1, the sort of uh the second level, the pleasure house, right? Like
Hmm. Hmm.
like all of these places are far more interesting than Black Reef, right? I think that's what's the
Yeah.
place called in Deathloop, right? So like yeah,
Yeah.
that's like one of my major complaints, man, that like I just didn't have fun going through those areas.
Yeah.
Um
And I think that's what it was like. The ideas of it. It's like what I was trying to like kind of enjoy because I enjoy like some of the actual gameplay in Deathloop. But
yeah.
you're right. It's sort of like that world didn't feel. It almost just felt like it was like a biome of like experiment. Like we're gonna see how you know we're gonna do this and see how people kind of react to it. But it's not a
Right.
fleshed out scenario. That's what I said. It just felt like something was missing.
Yeah, definitely.
You know.
So yeah, Dishonored Definitive Edition has been mainly what I've been playing.
Hmm.
I did get a little bit into Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores.
Okay, dope.
It's yeah. It's really cool so far. The so obviously, and we'll probably save this for a topic as well, the whole Seika situation with Aloy and
Hmm.
that whole thing.
Yeah,
But like
I
but
got
like
spoiled on that, fortunately.
I
yeah,
did
yeah,
too.
yeah, me too. I feel like you could not be on Twitter without getting like spoiled on that,
It was like,
honestly.
yeah, people didn't even care. They threw it right in your face. Like,
Oh
like
yeah,
really?
oh yeah. There was
Yeah.
a Riot developer who like literally posted the screenshot, and I was like, all right, come on now, like,
Oh my god.
Right.
like literally the day that the DLC came out. But that's neither here nor there. But like literally, like the first cutscene that these two characters meet, I'm like, oh, like I didn't even need to see the screenshot. I was like, oh, there's definitely some gay in the air. I can smell it. Like it is so obvious, like right from the get go, man. But she's great so far. I really really like this character, Seika. Um, I don't know if you guys felt this in Forbidden West, but I had this like weird thing where like, and maybe it's not fair to compare it to something like God of War or like a Naughty Dog game when how they handle their cutscenes. But like I always felt like Horizons, like especially like in big action set pieces, like I don't know, their cutscenes were very like start and stop in terms of, like it felt like it always like cut a lot, like movies that always have like weird editing in terms of like how they cut certain
Yeah.
action sequences or whatever.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I felt that a little bit with Forbidden West, and like immediately like the first major action set piece that happens in Forbidden West is just like it feels like the camera just like never leaves Aloy and the action that's happening. It's just like I don't know, it's a really really damn good like opening scene.
Oh, good.
So I was
Okay.
like, yeah, I was really impressed with that. Um, it's a little bittersweet seeing Silence here. I have to admit, like,
Yeah,
um,
man.
yeah, I have to like, I gotta be honest. There's sometimes with Horizon where like, uh, especially because it has a lot of dialogue, where I after I hear kind of like what I want to hear, like I'm just kind of on my phone while people are talking. But that first conversation with Silence, like I exhausted every single dialogue option. I was like totally like
Hmm.
engrossed into all of it. So it's definitely bittersweet, man. Hearing him in here because we don't know if this is like his last appearance in Horizon or if they managed to get some voiceover with him for Horizon 3 or what. Regardless, I'm kind of like savoring every moment that he is in here. Thinking
I
that
totally agree,
going,
man.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, in terms of games, that's pretty much been it for me. In terms of what I've been watching, the only thing that I've been watching these past 2 weeks, Macho. I don't know if you checked out Bleach Thousand Year Blood War.
Not yet. I actually want to rewatch the entire series, which I know is like a tasking force, but I want to do that
Yeah.
before watching the new one.
So I won't get too much into it. It's first of all it's gorgeous. It looks gorgeous. It's only like 12 or 13 episodes, but it's animated like a goddamn movie. So it
Nice.
without a doubt like the best like animated fights in the entire series. I've never been a big fan of like how the fights were animated in like the normal like Bleach anime, but here they're absolutely stunning. Um, and then the last thing I'll say is that I can't remember the last time in like any story, whether it be a game or a movie that I was watching, or maybe not since the last Witcher book, that I have felt such a dire situation where characters are literally being killed off like left and right, and you like don't know how the characters are going to get out of this. And I don't know, I think that's a real testament to like the villains in this arc of just like how good they're conveying this like hopeless feeling and that like we are not gonna make it out of this. So yeah,
That's
it's
incredible.
really cool. Yeah, I love stories like that. That's why I love The Last of Us Part 2 so much, because like I love sort of like I don't know, I just love stories that could bring me through like the emotional ringer.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
So
That's how I
yeah,
felt with the Aranka arc in Bleach before I stopped watching. with
Yeah.
Ukiura and all that stuff. I was like, there's no way they're getting out of this. Like Ichigo
Yeah.
died like twice already, so how's he gonna get through the other stuff? But I'm glad to hear that it's actually hitting the notes it needs for you.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me in terms of what my past 2 weeks have been like. So whoever wants to take it next, go for it.
Jump in real quick. I want to hear what you've been playing or watching the past couple weeks.
Okay. Past couple of weeks, as far as watching, have been a little trickier because you talked about before the show. We had the flooding going on here in South Florida, so I had humidifiers and industrial fans going for
Right.
pretty much a full week. In the house drying things out. So that definitely made it harder to kind of watch like TVs and movies. So I was pretty much just kind of watching things I was already familiar with as far as movies go. Just like my go tos like Goodfellas and what did I watch? A couple of comedies. So I watched like Step Brothers, stuff like that. Just to kind of pass the time. And I didn't have to really pay attention to it, but just have something on.
Step Brothers is
But
a good one though. That distracts me every time.
yeah, I think that and Superbad, I threw that on too. So
Yeah.
But that being said, there was no way that I couldn't wait, and I watched the season finale of Mando, The Mandalorian. I don't know if you
Nice.
guys watched that or watched it in the Star Wars like that, but
No,
so I
I
watched
haven't.
that, and the season finale or series finale, I should say, for Snowfall. I'm not sure if you guys watched that show at all.
I've been hearing things about
Um,
that all week. I heard it's incredible. Did you like it?
do Snowfall. I'm bummed out that Snowfall ended, and I don't say that about a lot of shows that end. A lot of times you kind of go, you know, okay, that ended and it's fine, and then some shows you do miss, but Snowfall was from season one to the finale just a show that knew what it was there to do, tell the story that it needed to tell, and it got out. If you're into at all, like, I won't say cop drama, more like street drama, like The Wire, you know, where cops are involved, CIA, FBI, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The show's basically dealing with the rise of the epidemic of crack in the '80s in South Central Los Angeles. And John Singleton of Boys in the Hood fame was one of the executive producers and creators of the show before he passed a few years ago. And it's just incredible the window that it opens into like that world, and just the performances and the acting were just incredible from start to finish. But what it does outside of other shows that just kind of deal with what it means to be in the drug game and sell drugs, it was giving the message of in the '80s what cocaine and crack was really doing and who was behind some portions of it hitting neighborhoods. And they pulled in where the government was involved with flooding neighborhoods with cocaine and the crack epidemic to fund like the Nicaragua war and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
wow.
that money was being funneled back in. So they're dealing with all these things, and that is a part of American history that isn't talked about a lot, but that was happening in the Reagan era, where his wife was big on like say no to drugs, but
Right.
they had agents flying cocaine in here, giving it to dealers, and they were distributing it and making millions of dollars to fund war. So it's kind of dealing with that too, which makes it a pretty brilliant show because you have that parallel of the street hustle and then also the government involvement and where all that stood. So I was watching that fantastic show. I highly, highly recommend it. Can't say enough good about it. So
Dope.
finish that off. Yeah, and the Mandalorian season finale was okay. Wasn't bad. It's interesting for how hot that show came in the talks. It's funny how that whole world is kind of unfolding. Like, if you could tell when a show hits and they weren't expecting it to hit, and then it becomes like the thing,
Yeah.
and that's sort of they put in all the emphasis. Oh man, this is popping. So we really need to kind of make this the thing and milk it a little bit more. So I'm kind of feeling like there's definitely high points and low points, and how that fed into things like Book of Boba Fett and stuff like that. I'm kind of like Book of Boba Fett actually just
Yeah.
became another part of a Mandalorian season, and so I always laugh at this whole vehicle that Disney and Marvel and Star Wars is kind of creating, because all of it you could tell Macho is to feed the Disney Plus beast,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the assumption that everybody, oh, people love us. They watch all of our stuff. So for Marvel, I'm like, if you didn't watch XYZ shows and you go to a Marvel movie, like, when the hell did Scarlet Witch become like a Karen with witch powers?
Yeah, that's the one thing my
You know?
wife was like, "Wow, she's really a bitch." I'm like, it's because there's a whole
Right.
show predating this movie.
Right. And there's like a whole audience that the last time they saw her, she was basically bringing Thanos to his knees. And then you come back and it's like, when did she start killing people, like trying to murder everybody? What's going on here? Right.
That was
And it's
me.
just,
That was me. Admittedly, I don't have Disney Plus, so as soon as I went in to see
see?
Multiverse of Madness, I was like, okay.
But
Right.
we warned him. Me and Walt warned him. Like, yo, you gotta watch the show before you do it. And so I was like,
Yeah.
I'll be all right.
To be fair, I don't watch a lot of Marvel, so that's probably on me.
And yeah, that's the funny part. My wife and I went to see Multiverse of Madness. I looked over at her at one point. I was like, you don't know what the hell's going on, do you? She goes, she's like, I'm following it. She's like, but yeah, when did this happen? And I'm like, yeah, well, this all happened in XYZ show and this and that.
Yeah.
So then I imagine too, people coming back to Mando's like, when the hell did he get this ship? Like, when did this happen? You know, and I'm like, and I tell my boys this like all the time. We have like these debates, and I said, I said Marvel's got an interesting. I know we're jumping back and forth between Marvel and Disney, but it kind of all feeds together.
Yeah.
I said they have an interesting dilemma on their hands in the fact that they have to they want to feed this Disney Plus beast, and they also have to kind of try to recapture the magic of what the whole Endgame saga was, right?
Yeah.
And they have people invested in it, but they have to realize people aren't going to be invested in every little thing that you do. Some people want to show up for the movie and that's it. So you can't assume that they're going to go watch all the shows. And that's a lot of TV to watch, right? And even in the Star Wars world, I'm here for it because I'm just nerdy like this. I'm going to watch it. But here in Seoul, like, you didn't watch all that stuff, so here you go. You're like, hey, I'm just gonna go continue the Marvel saga. And they're like, no, you're not. You needed to watch all this. You didn't do your homework.
Yeah, basically,
So,
it started to feel like
yeah.
homework after a while.
Yeah. So I'm watching Mando, and I'm like, well, I know what's going on because I watched all of it, but I don't feel like I'm super invested like I was from the first season of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
There's characters I love. I get the whole Grogu thing. It's like, they didn't. I'm sure they felt it was cute, but they didn't know it was going to hit the way it did. So now they had to work Grogu into everything. And I'm like, I thought that a lot of that stuff worked better when it was used in, sparingly. And now it's like,
Yeah.
we got all the Grogu you need.
And now you just have Baby Yoda just like force pushing everything, It's like...
Yeah, it's like, oh, Mando's in trouble.
Yeah.
We're gonna force hold this thing, It's like I get it, guys. I'm still here for it. But there are things I'm just like, man, Boba Fett was like that dude growing up. And now the mystery is gone. And I think that happened. That's not the Mandalorian's fault. That is a symptom of George Lucas and his prequel stuff, right? But at the same time, I'm like, why do you have a show called Book of Boba Fett and like the whole latter season is about the Mandalorian? It's like you don't feel strongly enough about Boba Fett. He's a cool character in himself. So
Right.
I don't know. But anyway, to jump around and answer your question, long story short, those are the things that I was watching. And the Bad Batch, I'm still watching that too. Or getting caught up on that. I love that show. And there's something about the animated stuff, the Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch. They don't seem to miss with that stuff.
Definitely not. Yeah. I love the Clone Wars, yeah.
Oh, it's so good, man. I tell anybody, if you really want what feels like Star Wars still, watch the Clone Wars saga.
Yeah, definitely.
That hits it. So other than that, playing, my gaming has been kind of sporadic just with everything going on, but finished up the main story of Hogwarts Legacy. I'm still kind of going back and forth, but I do want to platinum it, but that is a thick game.
Yeah.
There's like a lot to do in that game, and credit to them for loading it. But yeah, so I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the story of it. I liked how they fleshed out the lore and added some things to it. It kind of made it their own,
Yeah,
so
it was very
cool.
good. I loved it. I platinumed it too, maybe like a month or two ago, and it was like that was like a secular experience of 2023 I can remember.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So yeah, wrap the main story on that, and then I jumped into Burning Shores. So I'm glad Soul brought that up because I don't know, man. I don't want to come off and sound like fanboyish or anything like that, but I'm just like Gorilla's just on another level, man. When it comes to their what they're doing graphically.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say what you want about the game itself. I know Horizon is in a way like I would say a polarizing game. I think it falls victim to the list wars of Twitter. I think
Yeah.
outside of that is where the real story lies.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sony has a lot of faith in it because they're going full force with
Yeah, man.
Horizon everything. Look, we're gonna
Yep.
have Horizon breakfast cereal soon, and Horizon the Saturday morning cartoon, and the whole nine.
I'm not gonna lie. I'll
But
kind of vibe with those Horizon breakfast cereal. I'll kind of vibe with that. I'm not gonna.
right.
I got they got the marshmallows that turn like the white monsters into like orange or something like that when they're in the milk.
Yeah,
I'll
man.
kind of vibe with that. I'm not.
What they should absolutely do is the goddamn the animal crackers, but have them be the actual
Oh, yo,
Oh,
that would rock.
man, they're missing a whole other level of things that they could be doing with this hit,
Exactly.
man.
They should
You
talk
know,
to us for marketing. They should talk
for
to
real.
us.
I'm with it, man. Oh man, yeah, little Horizon animal crackers. I like it.
Yeah.
So, but no, I'm pretty early in the game overall, and like you said, like we talked about, like I had Cycla spoiled for me, so
Yeah.
um, as far as like what some of the end result is, like I'm still intrigued as how their story unfolds. I like her as a character already.
Right.
I think she's bringing a certain like lightness and a sense of adventure to Aloy, who, again, arguably, depending on who you talk to, some people feel she's a boring protagonist. I don't
Mhm.
necessarily feel she's boring. I just feel she's sort of matter of fact. That's different
Yeah,
than being boring.
for sure.
Um, but just God, man, just looking at the world, and like you look at how it performs and how it plays and kind of the playground that they're giving you. I don't understand. I know not every game is for everybody. As a gamer, not every game is for me, but I can always look at a game and then understand why people would love it or like it. Right? It doesn't matter what it is. So when I see people say, "Oh man, Horizon's gameplay is absolutely boring," I'm like, you can
You
say a
haven't
lot of
played
things about it.
it.
Right? You can say a lot of things about this game, but I don't know how you sit and say the gameplay is boring.
Right, right.
Dismantling these robots, and you could probably say, "Oh, becomes repetitive." You could say that. I wouldn't agree with that, but you could say it. But I don't say you can look at it as a gamer and go, "Oh, that's boring." Like that's the
Yeah,
essence of gaming. The essence of gameplay is having you do something, systematically, and how every creature you kind of face has a systematic way to take it down, and not everyone is the same.
yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how you go with that. But no, again, but just looking at what Guerrilla's going, looking at them coming from Killzone into Horizon, and really starting from the first game to now, understanding their world and how it all works, and you look at the lush environments, and every biome is different, every region is different. I don't think people give it the respect, even if you don't like it. I don't see
Yeah.
how people can just completely just shit on it.
It's weird,
There's a
man.
lot there. Yeah,
It's really weird. I don't understand. Like people treat Horizon as if it's just like the worst thing in the world, and it's I don't know.
right.
I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't know when
Yeah,
that switch happened. Um, but and I feel like it's only gonna get worse now because of the whole Seiko thing. So now you attract
yeah.
that crowd to now hate on this as well. So I don't know, man. It's just weird to me, honestly.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. And again, we live sort of in the Twitterverse, and we also kind of have a foot in the actual world of people who have no idea what goes on in Twitter.
Yeah.
And you talk to those people, you get a better sense of what is really going on with gaming. That's why I always laugh at how serious people take the Twitterverse world. I'm like, you guys realize it's like 2% of the actual gaming community going on
Yeah.
here. It's not that serious. It's not that critical. You know,
Yeah, you gotta
people
step
who put
away
all their
from it.
hopes and dreams. Yeah, step away and actually go talk to people who have no idea what it is. They don't know what you're talking about when you say, "Hey, did you follow so and so?" Like, who the hell is that?
Yeah.
That's the
Hmm.
person you talk to. And when people say, you get into the $70 game debate or the Game Pass debate, go talk to people who are not invested in this side of it and see how they feel about it. I've not had one friend of mine, and most of them play on PlayStation. I have a few friends who still have Xbox and play there. They don't really talk too much about Game Pass. They just kind of play like 2Ks and Call of Duties and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But my cousins and friends who are invested like in PlayStation and have been for years, I've not had one of them hit me up and say, "Yo, what the hell happened? What's going on with these $70 games?"
Yeah.
Not one. They'll
Interesting.
hit me up and say, "Hey, what should I be playing?" Because I have a cousin, 2K like his jam. That's all he plays, and then he jumps into periodically something from the first party. So he'll jump into a God of War. He'll play a Horizon. He likes Uncharted when that's around. So he hit me up about Dying Light 2. Like, hey, what are you hearing about this? Because he's not invested in everything, so he
Yeah.
knows I am. So he'll ask my opinion. But yeah, none of these guys have brought that up to me. They may ask who's doing what. Like I have a friend who's like really invested in like Castlevania. He's like, "The hell's wrong with Konami?" So we had that discussion
Hell yeah,
because he's like,
man.
"You got to
Yeah.
understand how they had this great Netflix show and there's nothing that's following it up, right?"
Yeah.
But yeah, I caution people, break away from Twitter and actually go find people who are not involved in social media when it comes to their gaming
Yeah.
and talk to them, and you'll get a whole different sense of what's really going on out there. And it'll give you perspective. I know we're going to talk about this later, but it'll give you perspective on Game Pass, ABK, how all that stuff is playing into it.
Yep.
You
Hmm.
know, so yeah, it's all interesting. But again, I say that to say, if you're a gamer at heart, you should be able to look at anything and see the value in it. Or even if it's not for you, you can go, it's not my jam, but if you like it, I love it.
To,
But
to
people
that
don't
point,
tend to do that.
about like kind of expanding like who you talk to and things like that. Um,
Hmm.
one of my favorite things from last year was when Elden Ring came out, and I'm at school and
Mm,
everyone in my classroom is talking about it, and so I
right.
go to this group of people who are like talking about it, and they actually mentioned that this is the first From Software game that they've ever played, and I asked them, so what was it about this game specifically that made you want to try it instead of, why didn't you jump in at Bloodborne or Dark Souls 3 or Sekiro and things like that? And it's just like hearing all the different reasons why they chose Elden Ring to be their first From Software game. Like, I don't know. I think that puts things into perspective and that like
Hmm.
because when you get on Twitter, so it's obviously like, oh hell yeah, we're playing every single From Software game that comes out, but then like going
Right.
outside of the Twitter sphere, and that's not the same thing. So I think that's
Hmm.
a really really good point for sure.
That's intriguing. Like I love to know like what some of those reasons were because the numbers definitely said that it's bigger than what's going on Twitter. We
Oh
saw
yeah,
the event happening and unfolding in Twitter.
yeah,
Those numbers say that there's people outside of this thing that are gravitating towards this game, and it was
yeah.
definitely like an event, man. Like as far as gaming goes, like is that one of those things that don't happen often?
So
A game that just hits the thing.
yeah, for sure. One of the the reasons I'll always remember was this one guy was saying, oh, because I'm a big George R. R. Martin fan, so I heard he was
Yeah,
working
there
on
you
this.
go. Right.
Yeah, so hey, those are the things that works now. So
Hey man, I can
See?
see that because if there's anything attached, if there's anything attached to like my favorite author or whatever case may be, like I'm interested in it. So that's
Hmm.
actually a very valid reason.
yeah, for sure,
That
for sure.
that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I think there was something about I honestly believe it's the most accessible of their games, in the way that they built it. Like that's why
Yeah,
I thought it was funny too, like hearing the conversation happen again, where every time From launches something, you have the same conversation about there should be an easy mode. I'm like, this is their way of giving you the easy mode.
yeah,
They're not gonna acquiesce and just completely make the game and break what they do to make it complete easy mode accessible. Because again, not every game is built for everybody, and we have to be able to accept that.
yeah,
You're not, you know, you can't go to every party.
yeah,
It's just how life works, and that's every in consumer products. Like not everybody wants or can do Jordan. Some people go Converse. It's just
yeah,
that's how the world works. So just let From do what they do. But I do think they listened, and I do think they tried their best to make this game the most accessible of their games. And I think that's why it spoke to more people. Excuse me. You know, from just the way the game plays, you can kind of make it easier for yourself. And having the what do you call them again? The your oh god the I'm drawing a blank here. Sorry guys.
no, you're good.
Your I'm gonna because I can't think of the word right now. Your partner, your avatar, your
The mimic tier.
the mimic tier. Yeah, like, yeah. There you, thanks, bro. Oh my god,
Yeah.
dude. People wouldn't even think that I finished the game. People wouldn't even think that I platinum the game, but it feels like it's so long ago now. But yeah, you get like the mimic tier, right? And that thing is like God. Every
Yeah.
time where I sat back, like I got so powerful, the mimic tier was so powerful. I sat back and like, you just finished him off, dude. I didn't even. I was over here trying to get something ready to come and help, and he's already done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never got
I'm
the
like,
mimic
damn, you're
tier in
awesome.
my playthrough. I never got it because I was just too lazy to
Really?
look it up to actually explore the dungeon. So I was like, I'm just gonna keep going
uh,
through the game. But yeah, I mean, it was tough just without that thing. But from what I hear, yeah, I heard
yeah.
it was like God. It was like basically when you were in God mode.
And they nerfed it. That's the crazy part. Because you remember, so you remember, like when the game first launched, people were like, man, the mimic tier is just like
It's
I don't have to
broken.
do
Yeah.
anything. I just sit back and he's in beast mode.
Yep.
I didn't play the game for months, and they patched the mimic tier when I played it, and he was still a beast.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, and I loved it. I was like, this is dope because you can actually use that as much as you want, or don't use it at all,
Yeah.
right?
I will say. I will
And
say. I will say. He that. That little MFer did not help me with Melania. So,
yeah. She was like the equalizer on that one. You know what? I will say this: we worked her over in her first phase, right?
wow.
And then it was like, and she was like, "Oh yeah, second phase,
Yep. Don't get me
non-existent." I was
started.
like, "All
Don't get
right,
me
all right."
started.
I was like, "You
um.
got it, boo."
But
She's
yeah.
Bay, by the
So.
way. Millennia's Bay.
Oh man. Don't get me started on her, man. Uh. But have you been playing anything else besides after Burning Shores?
No, that was it. I got to get back in because I got so much stuff waiting for me. Still. I got Dead
Yeah.
Space remake. I got Resident Evil 4. I know Zelda's on the way.
Yeah.
It's just 2023 has been like relentless as far as like drop.
Yeah, and we'll kind of like because I do want to ask you guys because I'm sure you guys have been seeing the $70 conversation kind of float back up here again
Oh my
recently.
god, you serious?
I do want to get you guys' opinion on specifically the whole thing about Activision and Sony apparently seeing a dip in like
Mhm.
game sales and whatnot. But yeah,
Okay.
so Macho, what about you, man? What have you been up to?
Of the past couple weeks since I was sick, the first week I was like really bad to the point where I just didn't want to play or watch anything. I made up for it in the week afterwards, playing more Octopath Traveler 2, and I actually got some really good headway in that one. So I completed all 8 stories, and it's taken me 83 hours to do it. And I immediately messaged Flame after. I'm like, dog, all right, I think I'm ready to like jump something else. I come back to Octopath. He's like, no, you gotta get the true ending. You gotta do all the side stories. I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to. Like, this game is going on for hella long. I love it too because it's really one of those games where you have to really like sit down, just enjoy it, and every bit that you play it as, even if it takes you months to finish. Just because like it's honestly the best way to enjoy it for like me personally. If I binge it, I'm gonna hate it. So I eventually got through the 8 stories. They're very good. I like them a lot. Beautiful looking game, amazing soundtrack. Dude, the last 2 boss fights uh, for Agnia and Hikari, their boss fights are awesome because they actually mix their character themes, which is prevalent throughout their stories as you keep progressing in them, and then it just ramps it up with some rock music in there, and then Agnia actually has some lyrics in it too, so it gave me some Final Fantasy 14 vibes. It was super dope. What a great game. I think this is definitely Team Asano's like magnum opus so far. I honestly the cream of the crop for me was Bravely Default. That was just incredible. But Octopath Traveler 2 I think
Mm.
really takes the cake for me in terms of all the presentation and just the way it lays it out pace wise. And again, it's the perfect pick up and play game. You get to play it in chapters and chunks, which is why it was so easily digestible for every 1 to 2 hour session I was giving it for the past couple months. So now it's
Mhm.
really just to go through the end game and maybe get the platinum before Final Fantasy 16. We'll see how that goes. But overall, it's
Oh,
a
that's right. Final Fantasy 16 is coming.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. If anyone else to this podcast knows that,
Yeah.
no, anyone to this podcast just knows that game is coming out June 22nd, and I am there. um,
Does anyone have more time? If you
uh,
have some time to spare, I'll take some of that off your hands.
that's
Good
what I'm telling
lord, man.
Soul. That's what I'm telling Soul. He's like, I don't know if I'm gonna play 16 at launch because I'm gonna play Diablo 4. I'm like, you're gonna play 16 at launch. We're going to talk about this game when it comes out.
Right. But
um,
this is up to June. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Up to June. Look how crazy it's been
I
from for the
know,
part of the year
yeah,
up to June, man. Wow.
so good.
Actually, to that point, Macho,
Yeah.
what do you guess what I did yesterday in regards to Final Fantasy 16?
Did you pre-order it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
I don't pre-order a lot, but
Yeah.
I had to. This actually ties into the whole $70 thing, which we'll get into later. But yeah, I'm using pre-orders now in a way that I don't think I really used to. So yeah, but we'll get into it. But yeah, I did pre-order FF16.
Let's go. Yes, sir. Best news of the week, man. Love to see it. And Doctor, another one, Yoshi P, you're welcome.
Oh god.
Yeah, I got mine pre-ordered. I'm ready.
Yeah.
So it's been I played Trial 2 and I'm playing a little more Street Fighter 6 demo. That's been just a dream to play. Like I played the closed beta back in I want to say October, November. Very fun. Love the online, very smooth, but they just made the actual project itself so pristine, man. Like if you jump to that single player demo,
Hmm.
it's so smooth. The buttons are really responsive. You can actually mess around with 1v1 mode and extreme battle, which is like one of those more like kooky and crazy modes that they throw out you for single player stuff. And you can make your avatar as well. And I was gonna make my character from Final Fantasy 14, Stella, but then my wife came in the room. She's like, "You always make Stella. Why don't you make me in the game?" I was like, "Okay, someone's getting jealous." So I made her in the Street Fighter 6. So she's running around beating up people in the street. We're just having a good laugh. So I'm really excited for that one. That's another one coming out in June. Um, and lastly, so we talked about this a little bit when the Nintendo Direct happened. Xenoblade 3 just all of a sudden just had a DLC drop. They dropped the trailer like a week before, like last week. Just came out this past Thursday or Wednesday, I want to say. And I'm about 7, 8 hours into it. Dude,
Okay.
this is the Avengers Endgame of the Xenoblade
God
trilogy.
damn.
It's so good, man. I'm already getting some hyped moments because Rex now he's not like a little dorky ass kid. He's actually a man. He is a big hunky ass man with two swords, and he's just like, "Don't worry, Uncle Rex is here." I'm like, "Oh, it's so cheesy and wonderful," and this is what I love about Xenoblade. It's so good, and we're just getting some really cool hype moments. Like there's already a couple of really cool lingering questions. Like this character kind of looks like this character from Xenoblade 2, and then there's this connection to Rex and Shulk's in here as well, but he's also missing an arm somehow. When did he actually lose his arm? So like there's a lot of really cool stuff in there. And last night before I went to bed, there was one Easter egg that just made me foam at the mouth. So as a Xenoblade Chronicles stan, there's this one location in the very first game called Colony 9, and you visit it pretty frequently within the first like 5 or 6 hours of the game. And just the music, the ambiance, the setting, the houses in that town are just so memorable for me. Maybe probably because when I first played it in 2011, I was like, "Wow, this is something that feels really different." And then I noticed it in Xenoblade 3. The music was starting to swell. I was venturing down the hill. I pan the camera to the left, and I see Shulk's house. I'm like, that's Shulk's house. Wait, is this Colony 9? Oh my god, are we on Colony 9 in Xenoblade 3? What's going on? And then the title screen just fades to black, and then you see this the lettering pop in, Colony 9. I was like, oh my god, we're Colony 9. So it's so hype, man. I'm only like in chapter 3, but this DLC is doing everything for me, man. So really happy with that, but that's it for me. That's all I got for you guys. That's it on the hype train for the Kingdom Hearts of Fantasy fanatic here, man.
Good stuff out there, man. Good stuff.
Love that. Love that. So actually, I forgot to mention. So tying into the Final Fantasy 16 pre-order that I did yesterday, I think. I went to the bookstore also, and this guy and like I'm assuming his girlfriend were like in the comics section, and they were looking at like the Batman like little area, and he's like, "Ooh, Injustice." And like, so and me just finishing Injustice 2 recently, I was like, "Oh yeah, I just finished Injustice 2 and I saw the animated movie too." And he was like, "Oh yeah, the animated movie. That was terrible." I was like, and because I came on this podcast I think maybe 2 weeks ago or whatever, and I was singing the praises of this movie. I really enjoyed that movie, and what's funny is that I was literally be like, oh, and I love that movie, but he went first. He was like, oh, it was terrible. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna stay quiet for the rest of this conversation because I don't want to get into this dude in the middle of a Barnes and Noble.
Right.
But yeah,
you
I
just you
just
just put your
remember,
book back on the shelf. So what you like? What you didn't like about it? Hmm?
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I just remember that happened as well as the Final Fantasy 16 thing yesterday. But yeah, man, let's get started with some of these topics. Once again, I want to remind everyone to go ahead and like the podcast. Thank you to the people who've been subscribing, man. We really appreciate it. Thanks for getting us to 150. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, shouts to you
Um,
guys. That was awesome.
Cool.
yeah. So yeah, let's get into Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Um, I'm assuming you haven't have you gotten any time into this?
No, not yet. I intend on playing it, but we'll get more into why I'm delaying on it as we go here. I'll let you
Yeah.
set it up.
Macho, what about you? Have you gotten any time into this?
No, no, I think it's pretty evident. I was kind of on a
Mhm.
wait and see approach
Right.
for which
Mm,
version I was
right.
going to buy and play, and it turns out both options in my head, or both options I was going to go for, just aren't viable. So,
Well,
Hmm.
that's the major story with Jedi Survivor is that for all intents and purposes, it looks like it's a pretty good game. It's a improvement on the first in almost every category.
Hmm.
Except the sort of the thing that's kind of like undermining that, which kind of sucks, is undermining the fact that yeah, it is a good game, is the performance issues that this game is running like trash on PC. There's a bunch of screen tearing. I hear people talking about there's been moments where they walk into a room that is supposed to be lit, but it's just like complete like all the lighting just disappears and you can't see anything that's happening in there. Um, there's a
Jesus
lot of like
Christ,
weird
wow.
animation quirks. Like I've just been hearing like crazy things, like obviously crashes as well. The frame rate. I watched Skill Up's review and just like seeing him running around like some open fields and just seeing how this thing is like chugging. It's wild, man. So
Mm.
I'm assuming this is why for you guys as well that this is what's keeping you from getting it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
the first thing was time for sure because I have a bunch of stuff I'm playing still. But knowing me, I would have made the impulse decision if it was like really hype and everyone was enjoying. I'm like, man, now I gotta play. I got the weekend free. I can do it. But after seeing
Hmm.
this, I really held off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Same with
That's
you.
pretty much where I'm at. Yes, that's pretty much the same for me. It's definitely one of my most anticipated games. I'm definitely going to play it. But I've shared this on Twitter over the week, and there's definitely this thing that's happening. You guys have been around games for a long time, and there was always the statement of, day one. I'm there
Yeah.
day one, right? And I've noticed, like, in particular, maybe even some more sort of this generation. I know it's carrying over from last gen. Day one is becoming a thing that we can't bank on anymore.
Oh yeah, for sure.
you know and it's kind of, it's not me like holding up the torch and getting on the soapbox. It's just that because there's always so many things I'm playing that it kind of carries into the next thing that's coming up anyway, so usually I'm still in the middle of something or ending something while the new thing just hit. And like Macho says, sometimes that happens to where if it hits and it's on point, it's ready to go, I might jump over, but usually I try to finish what I'm doing before I jump into something new. But I'm starting to become more day one ish. Like, because we're
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
more and more examples of the game a couple of weeks, a month, even 6 months later, it's something completely different than when it launched. Like where it's getting a new game plus, or it's fixing trophy or achievement issues, or it's doing all these things that fundamentally mess up the overall experience, right? And it's becoming a little bit more prevalent where game development is happening after launch.
Yeah, it's kind of
You know,
crazy too because from all accounts, right? Like this game got nines and eights across the board,
right?
maybe in a few tens here and there, but a lot of people, well, reviewers didn't mention this, but a lot of people were really harping the fact like the actual performance and technicality part of the game is ruining the experience, and that's where
Hmm.
I was listening to Skill Up say is like I love this game, but the actual technical experience is ruining it for me because it's chugging, it's not all up to snuff there, which really sucks to see, especially for. I mean, I know it's funny when like Greg Miller makes fun of the PC players stuff like that. Um, I feel like
Right.
I feel like it is harder to develop for PC because there's so many different variables out there. But at the same time, I feel like it wouldn't hurt anybody or any PC player if their version got delayed maybe a month or so afterwards the console versions to really tighten up the experience to have a really clean launch because I don't
Hmm.
know because then you have situations like this and even for The Last of Us Part 1 on PC that game's still being fixed right now and that game
They
came
just they
out
just they just
in
released like a
March.
major like I think
Crazy.
like 25 gigabyte patch or something like that.
What? Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
yeah. Some huge patch. Yeah,
Right.
Wow. So I
And
mean it's again to that point that it's like that game released at the end of March, and now we're at the end of April, so it's been a full month. That game could have definitely have more development time. It could have been like a May release or something. Could have been a city for Fallen Order, but I guess
hmm
they didn't want to really flood their release with Tears of the Kingdom and then what's coming out in June stuff like that. So I don't know. E, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's like that thing where we're so inundated with games, and it's so fluid that you have to pick your spot and go, right, because you go a little too soon, you're in the thick of all these other titles, you wait a little bit longer, then you're back in the thick of all these titles. So it's almost this thing of where you hedge your bet, like we're going to go ahead and release, ultimately what's there can fundamentally be played, right? It's not
yeah.
completely game breaking, but it's not exactly where we want it to be. But we can't really. Is that enough for us to delay it and forego, you know, potential sales or whatever? But there's this weird thing. It's like, now are you doing a disservice to the people who had the faith in you, and pre-ordered, and they're there day one, but their experience is a little bit muddled. And then infinitely, the people who decided to wait and hold off are going to get a cheaper game because it'll go on sale, and they'll get your complete vision after you've patched it X number of times, right? So it's sort of like, what do we do there?
Yeah,
It's just kind of
and
crazy,
yeah, and to Macho's point is like they already delayed this thing once,
right?
so it also like it kind of makes you think like God, like what would this have looked like if it kept that original like release date as
Ooh,
well, right?
right. And then you look at the
So
size of the gigabyte size of it. It's like something.
yes,
Okay,
that's so
something wasn't
wild.
right.
That's like
Yeah.
that's like Call of Duty, NBA 2K like size of a game. Like I don't know if
Right. Right.
if you guys have ever seen the gigabytes on those games specifically, they
Yeah.
are ridiculous. So
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, man,
And,
it's
and for good reason. They got a lot of assets going on, right?
yeah.
So what's going on with Fallen Order? That shouldn't be the same, the same scenario.
Yeah,
But
I think because from
not
what
Fallen Order. I'm sorry, Survivor.
from what I'm seeing from the game, it's like they up the ante, like worlds are just bigger and everything. But I can
Yeah.
imagine they want like the Disney stamp of approval, where like quality is in every corner of this game. So that's probably where like that huge chunk of size comes from because they're like reliving I think a couple of planets from the movie like Coruscant or something like that. I think it's in the game,
Yeah.
and that's like it looks fully realized. Like it looks like that thing
Hmm.
lives and breathes when you're not even in the planet. That's what the first game did really well. So I imagine they just upped the ante with this one, but yeah, it's a lot.
Mm.
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely a growing trend and like to what E was talking about like the no longer being day one kind of thing, like dilemma. Do you guys have developed certain developers that like no matter what you trust that it won't be an issue for them? Because like for me, like Capcom in general with like Resident Evil is just like
Mhm.
that's like I feel pretty safe in buying those games day one because I feel like track record wise, I haven't really had to worry about a disaster like this, you know.
Yeah,
I feel the
yeah,
same way about like, Santa Monica or Gorilla Insomniac, especially, right? Like I just don't have those
yep,
concerns. But going forward, for example, like Project Red, I absolutely have those concerns, right? So do you
yep.
guys have
Yeah.
developers like that as well, where like no matter what day one that's not going to be an issue for you?
Well, that kind of was Respawn. You know, they had like the track record, right? It was like they had the pedigree where people said, "Man, they don't miss."
Yeah,
It's like, "Ooh, guys, what happened here?" So no, but to answer your question, yeah, Capcom was the first one that came to mind with what they're doing with like their remakes and things like that.
yeah,
You might get a couple of stability patches or something like that, or a couple things that need to be worked in, but it's never to the point where people are just like completely put out, like, "Oh my god, this is the worst. What's going on?" Right?
yeah,
So yeah, I feel like I could still step my watch to them for sure. Nintendo typically
yeah.
they they put that stamp of approval on their games, and they still kind of stand by that,
Yeah.
and they don't give a damn.
Except for
They'll delay it.
Pokemon, yeah, except for
Yeah, I don't.
Pokemon. But
Right, right, right.
That one was like, yeah, no. You throw that out, Macho. Like, who was that on? Was that on them or was that on Pokemon Company? Like, who?
Yeah,
Because
so
they kind of
I mean,
share the weight, right?
that's a good yeah. So exactly, I would be like, you know what, Pokemon Company, I'm gonna wait at least like 4 months before I decide to buy one of
Because
your
that was a
games.
yeah. I mean, and look, I'm not a Pokemon player, but I was looking at that whole thing unfold. Like, man, the Pokemon community is coming for them. They should.
yeah,
That was bananas. That was
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
So no, Capcom's a good one. Let me think who else.
Insomniac is definitely up there for me.
Yeah,
yeah,
What I mentioned before was Xenoblade, Monolith Soft. Nearly every
hmm
release they had that was just clean. I mean, it's kind of hard to not have like a clean project when you're on the Switch, but they just somehow make a super large open world and it just works on the Switch. Like even if it is a little blurry, like regardless, you're getting a pretty clean project out the gate when you're playing it.
yeah, yeah. I would
Um,
definitely say that too. I would say, yeah, I would love to throw 2K out there, but their games are so few and far between. Who can say?
yeah.
It's been like you get a GTA one like once every 20 years.
I mean,
Dude, it's
probably Sega too, right? The Yakuza
Yeah,
series.
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Because you didn't hear any issues with like a Dragon Ishin.
Yeah, yeah,
It just dropped and it's doing this thing. No, those are like good call outs, good picks.
yeah.
oh, you must.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said Microsoft and honestly, the team, uh, Creative Division 3, Business Unit 3 from Square Enix, the guy that do 14 is doing 16.
Yeah,
14, it somehow all the systems that work in that game, and there could be a couple issues here and there, but whenever it comes to major launch for expansions, it's smooth like butter. And the only reason why we had a problem with Endwalker is because there's too many people flooding the gates. That was the only reason. There wasn't anything really wrong with the game technically. So it's really
yeah,
hmm
on that team that kind of like anything that they release, it's you can expect to actually be able to play it, unless everyone's logging in at the
Yeah,
same time. But regardless, I had that same confidence for 16. So
yeah,
yeah,
and it's that thing of where as gamers, we understand the reality that there's no such thing as the perfect like release, because even back in the day before we had the ability for studios to patch, post release, of course they had to make sure that their game was as working as good as possible before release, because that was it. Once it was out there, that was it. You got the disc home or you got the cartridge home, and if that game was broken on it, that was kind of a wrap for them. Now we live in the world where they can, and it's a double edged sword, because it's like you don't want to lean on that to where it's like, well, we can fix it after. You want it to be where you have as perfect a situation or game that we wanted to release, and now we're just going to do things to make it better going forward. We're going to add content. We're going to make it more stable.
yeah,
Hey, guess what, guys? We just added this that's going to make your experience that you're already having even better. You don't want it to be like, you don't want to have to put that press release out, like you said. you brought up CD Project. How many times did we see that neon yellow background? You're like, oh boy,
Yep.
you know,
We
like
already
here we
knew what
go.
was happening.
Right. That was
As
never
soon as
good
we saw that
news when you
color.
saw that.
Yep.
Right. So you want it to be an additive, like a bonus, like a benefit that they can still reach out and do something. You don't want to you don't want it to come with the apology letter, like, "Hey guys, we know we dropped the ball, and we're going to do everything we can to fix it."
Yeah.
Like you said, you want that accolade. You want to be that studio where people feel that they can trust it. Like we understand nothing is 100% perfect, and you might run into a glitch here and there, right?
Yeah.
But it should not be a thing to where everyone's reporting different experiences. Like, well, it's kind of working for me, and I kind of ran into this, or someone said, "No, this is completely bumped. It's messed up."
Yeah.
You don't want that at all.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want either to the point where it's like getting in the way of you having fun with the game.
Right.
What's his name? Blessing from Kind of Funny when they were doing their whole
Hmm.
review about Jedi Survivor. Everyone else was kind of like all over the place with like the scores that they gave the game, but he gave the lowest score for Jedi Survivor because he was just straight up like the glitches are and the performance issues are literally getting in the way of me enjoying this game. So and I
Yeah.
feel like that's the worst of it. That was me with like Fallout 4, where like yeah, I still played like a ton of that game, but like the moments when it's like moving like a goddamn PowerPoint presentation is like okay, like come on, man. Like
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
See
Um
that's the thing, man. That's the Bethesda charm, as they say, though.
I hate that, dude. I hate it so much when people say that. Like, oh my god. Um, but yeah, man. I don't know. It does. It's pretty sad at the end of the day because yeah, like it does seem like there's a good game underneath all of this, but
Hmm.
man, dude, it's just yeah, it just sucks that this is the talking point, instead of talking
Yeah.
about the story or the characters or how fun the platforming is and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, unfortunately, this is the stuff that we gotta talk about. But it's warranted, they released the game like this and for $70 too. So there's really
Yep.
no,
Yep.
yeah. So there's yeah.
So they
Yeah,
deserve the
man.
smoke.
That is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Um Next, let's move into a little, this doesn't have to be a long topic, but some of the PlayStation Productions stuff that was recently talked about in Assad's little interview on the Macho, it was on the PlayStation blog, right? I think. They did.
I think so. When you said the interview, I didn't actually know where you pulled it from, but I knew you talked about productions and the 10 projects, stuff like that.
Right, right. Let me see if I can like pull it up really quickly. But yeah, so essentially Assad Kizilbash, who's like I think the head of PlayStation Productions itself. He did like a podcast recently, talking about, the things that they have cooking, and I think some of the major talking points is that like the same level of care that they applied to The Last of Us, like yeah, expect that for God of War and the Horizon series as well.
Oh, it's for
The
the
big thing,
podcast. That's what you're saying. Okay.
right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um, and then one of the I think the big thing that I brought up to you, Masha, was that he mentioned, yes, we're doing, like TV and film, but there's also they're also interested in animated, that there's at least one of these is going to be like animated. So that what I'm trying to figure out, and we've kind of been saying that because we know that they're doing a Gravity Rush series as well. They cannot do Gravity Rush live action, dude. They have to do it animated. All right, I don't want to see it like a like Florence Pugh like goddamn gravity falling in the air or something like that. Like,
Yeah, the
no, you gotta do
animatronic
it
cat
animated.
from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yeah, dude, you gotta do it animated. Like, come on, man. Um,
Right.
I've been team do God of War animated. I think that would look way better, but in the style of like Castlevania, I think that'd be sick. But yeah, regardless, we also did get to see like a short little teaser of Twisted Metal with Aki. I don't think there was like a lot there to really like get too
Hmm.
excited about for me personally, but yeah, just wanted to bring this up, ask you guys, like, out of the 10 projects that we know is in development, What are you guys like most excited about?
Hmm.
Oddly enough, that teaser for Twisted Metal kind of sold me, man.
Oh, it did it for you?
Yeah, it actually did. I mean, I don't know what kind of tone they were going for. I don't know if it was like a Mad Max or it's something that was completely goofy. Cause I'm not really versed in
I,
the Twisted Metal aspect.
I
So,
think I think they're going
Yeah, same.
more like action comedy for that. Um
Hmm.
and then also really quickly we should add Gran Turismo was shown off at CinemaCon
oh
this
yeah,
past week as well, and like the reactions to that trailer are like surprisingly like really positive. So we have that as well in the works. Um, but yeah, so Twisted Metal did it for you,
yeah,
Macho?
yeah. I mean, well, real quick to your point, Gran Turismo. I'm excited to see that movie. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um, but yeah, Twisted Metal. I like the little teaser there. They had a little callback to Sweet Tooth at the end of that teaser.
Yeah.
It's Anthony Mackie, so I'm not mad about it because I think he's a really fun actor and I like seeing his projects. So I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what they do for it, how the pace of the show's gonna go, how what's the setup and everything. So it's one of those off the wall projects that you don't really expect to be excited about. But I saw the teaser, I was like, okay, yeah, I want to check this out. So that's
Hmm.
actually one of the parts I'm looking forward to. That's in the near future, along with Gran Turismo. But yeah, it's interesting to see what they kind of do for the animated stuff, though. I agree with you that Gravity Rush should be animated, 100%.
Yeah,
I'll kind of vie in there too that I think Horizon Zero Dawn should be animated as well, but I know they're gonna go with live
I
action
agree
for
with that
that.
one too. That's the one that came to mind when we were talking about animated. I'm like,
Yeah,
just from a, it's more versatile. You can do more with it, and then on top of that, cost.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
Horizon, man, that will be an expensive show to put on, and if you don't put the money into it, then you could end up with like, and
CW
not to stroke
looking
shade, but you end up with
CG and
like,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah, or you end up with like, like Halo, where you could tell the budget was constraining that show because the points where it shined is when they had like the elites and the grunts and everything happening and the battles going on, but then many of the episodes are just nothing,
Yeah, that's
and
because
that's what you run into.
I'm thinking like a live action Aloy swinging her staff around, how the impact just looks really hunky dory and not like there because she's gonna be
Yeah,
essentially hitting blue screens and green screens the entire time. So I
right.
feel like they were to do that animated, they could really hone in on camera angles and show her staff hitting the living shit out of a watcher and breaking apart like the pieces, stuff like that. I don't know how live action is really gonna pull that off, but yeah,
Yeah, it would be like trying to pull off, Cyberpunk End Runner like in live action. Yeah, aesthetically it could look cool,
yeah,
but what can you really get away with to sell it the same way?
yeah.
So I'm with you on that, and I agree with you too on the Twisted Metal. I was never a big Twisted Metal fan. I'm not super versed in its world or universe. I'm not sure how deep it really goes, but I feel like if they keep it somewhere in between like that action comedy, maybe some dark humor, it could definitely be something like dope. The only thing for me is like it's on Peacock, and it's like, okay, something else I have to subscribe to watch it.
Right, right.
You know, so that was like the thing that stood out the most. I didn't have a problem with the overall trailer. It didn't show much to kind of go on, but like Macho said, Anthony Mackie's a likable dude. He can be funny.
Yeah.
We'll see what they do with it. Uh, and yeah, like Gran Turismo, like you said, so hearing some of the reactions from that, hell, I mean, car movies in general. I know people are like, Gran Turismo, how do you do that? It's like the same way you do most of the car movies throughout history. You got Bullet, you got Fast and Furious. I mean, they've kind of gone a little crazy with it.
Yeah.
Um, but car movies in history, Smokey and the Bandit, have always been, if you do it right, fun and exciting. People like that. They like that idea. Cars are just cool.
Yeah.
So if you have a good story to go with it, you don't want it to be Need for Speed. Which was, I don't know what the hell Need for Speed was supposed to be as far as a movie, but we got it. So as long as it's not that, it can still
We
be
got
cool.
it.
So yeah, no one talks about. You think about it. No one talks about the Need for Speed movie.
Yeah,
And I
I
think the
didn't
only
even know.
reason, yeah, Aaron Paul's in it because it was like he was the dude at the time, like with
Right. Breaking
Breaking
Bad.
Bad. But it's like it's so forgettable as a movie. It wasn't horrible, but it's very forgettable.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Yeah,
It also makes me remember that there was a Hitman movie as well. which is
Yeah,
also
Oh yeah.
exactly.
goddamn Assassin's Creed movie that I goddamn went day one to see in theaters.
Yikes. Oh
And,
no.
oh man, so ideas. It had some cool ideas, but good lord, man, it's like, how do you mess this up?
I mean, I think that's the thing we're kind of learning about these adaptations in general is that like with the Assassin's Creed thing specifically, they were just like, oh, we're not gonna, we'll adapt the basic, idea, the animus and going back to the
Right.
past, and reliving those memories. But Altair and Desmond, nah, we're not doing it. We're just doing our own thing. So I think we're
Yeah, yeah.
learning that the successful ones are the ones that actually adapt, the source material somewhat one to one. Um, but yeah, that was a thing that happened.
Yeah, that was another thing that happened, right?
Yeah. Um,
Right.
but yeah, man. So yeah, just wanted to bring that up briefly because yeah, we did have like some updates with Twisted Metal and Gran Turismo, which they're both coming out this year, which is pretty nice. I mean, Twisted Metal,
Yeah.
it's insane that this thing is coming out in July and we've only gotten a teaser for it. And then Gran
That
Turismo,
is
we haven't
pretty
even
wild.
seen a trailer for that, and that's coming out in August.
That's
So
the follows PlayStation pace though, from what we talked before,
Mhm.
just having a trailer and a full blowout a month and a half before the thing actually releases.
Yeah, I mean, Spider-Man
Hmm.
2, yeah.
Yeah.
So but yeah, man. So that's PlayStation Productions. Should we just move straight into the big thing that happened this week?
The messy. What do you think? You ready for it?
I
Was
mean,
there was there big news this week?
Oh.
where you been?
Let's do it, man.
He's like, where have
Um,
you been?
I couldn't scroll through Twitter for 10 seconds without seeing something about this.
I got a couple people
Yeah.
hot with my list facts, man. Jesus Christ.
Let me tell you guys, man. I woke up that morning and kind of got my daughter ready. I'm sitting there, as she's getting ready for school. I'm like kind of opening Twitter and looking. I'm like, I read it a couple times. Like, that can't be right. This is a troll. Somebody did what? And I kept going like,
Yeah.
what? 'Cause the night before, it was like a whole different story, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a really good point too. Because I also had like a
Do it.
like a similar thing that like when I woke up, I think it was like an hour already had passed when the news broke. So like, I woke up at like 10 or something like that, and just scrolling through Twitter, and
Mhm.
Jason Schreier was the tweet that I saw. He was the one that broke it to me at least. And I like literally had like I still had the sleep in my eyes, the crumbs in my eyes. And,
Right.
I'm like looking at my screen, and I'm like, I know my vision is like super blurry right now. I just woke up, but let me let me rub my eyes and see if this is right. So, but yeah, so his tweet was the UK says it is blocking Microsoft's 69 billion purchase of Activision Blizzard. And I was like, what? Because what you just said is that like 2 nights prior, we were hearing something completely different. So
Hmm.
this came as a complete shock to me. Um, I'm assuming for all you guys as well, it came as a shock
Yeah.
as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty
Absolutely.
much we were pretty much on the optimist side. Like this was good. This thing was gonna pass, right? Because of all the
Yep.
arguments going back and forth. Xbox and PlayStation making their really petty arguments, but all in all, it seemed like it was going to be in favor of Microsoft for this deal because the console war aspects and arguments of the past couple of weeks or months that we've been experiencing here have been pretty like vaporware, but kind of like lukewarm, like whatever. But the CMA kind
Hmm.
of threw a wrench in that with their actual reasons for why they were blocking the deal.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Which ultimately had nothing to do with Call of Duty, which is what everybody was focused
Which
on. That's all people
which
talked
is
about, Call of Duty.
which is the funniest thing, right? Is that like this entire
Right.
time Sony's been focused on Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty this, Call of Duty that, and
Hmm.
like literally, and even the CMA was like, oh yeah, in terms of like the console space, we're not worried about that. Like, yeah, like we don't see like a threat to competition in that space. But cloud gaming, the thing that Sony, you guys weren't even like focused on. So it's almost like they were
Right.
like, yeah, we're not worried about that. But this over here, yeah, we are. So that's a really funny point, man. So it's almost like
Mhm.
all Jim Ryan's flights back and forth to the CMA. He was just wasting money, man. Like
It felt like a
Yep.
sleight of hand, almost, where it's
Yeah.
like we want you to focus on Call of Duty because that's the headliner, right? But the real underlying problem is the growth of uh, of live streaming games and all that kind of stuff that Microsoft been quietly not quietly, they've been announcing making deals with Nintendo for bringing their games to their platform, making other deals with other third party distributors for streaming access.
companies that we've
Mhm.
never even heard of, like
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm like,
pursuing,
who the hell is that?
right?
They're like,
yeah, they recently
or
announced like
getting a 10-year deal.
Yeah.
they recently announced like the deal with like a third party Spanish streaming site or something like that to bring more games to whatever region through the cloud stream. I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Right.
But
It's all
they're
like
covering their
posturing,
base.
but it's, you know,
They're covering their
yeah, yeah,
base. You know, like
exactly.
they're planting their foot before the seeds are grown in that flower bed. So that's where the
Hmm.
CMA is like, hey, we're catching these moves that you're doing. So that's why we're gonna be blocking your deal. But and now I think everyone kind of flipped their lid. Now, does everybody have any more optimism for this deal going through? Because if Europe ultimately, I think they decide at the end of May, if they decide
Yeah.
to block this deal, then Xbox either has option A, which is a long road ahead to fighting this thing, or option B to back out.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And I think
mean,
either way, come July, they have to have something because they're like Activision is owed $3 billion, right?
yeah, they have to pay like I think
Like,
it's like a breakup fee that they would have to
yeah,
pay Activision if
right.
this does not meet the like
Three
June or July
three
deadline.
billion, 3 billion big ones they have to pay Activision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, really
Oh
quickly,
yeah.
just going more into the CMA's reasoning for this. They said that Microsoft already accounts for an estimated 60 to 70% of global cloud gaming services and has other
Hmm.
important strengths in cloud gaming from owning Xbox, Windows operating system, and a global cloud computing infrastructure, which is Azure and Xbox Cloud Gaming. The deal would reinforce Microsoft's advantage in the market by giving it control over gaming content such as Call of Duty, Overwatch, and World of Warcraft. The evidence available to the CMA indicates that absent the merger, Activision would start providing games via cloud platforms in the foreseeable future. Um, and then, like one of the other big things that they said was that um, Microsoft was making like all the concessions and remedies, but like the CMA found it like basically inadequate, essentially
Hmm.
to like remedy their concerns for them possibly having like just such a huge advantage in cloud gaming. Um, so yeah,
Right.
it's interesting that it came down to cloud gaming. That's not what I would have expected it to to come down to be honest. But I mean, how
Yeah.
do you guys feel about that aspect of it all? Because I obviously a lot of people are taken aback by the big sort of concern being cloud gaming. They would have expected it to be console gaming or something or even subscriptions, right? But cloud
Hmm.
gaming in itself, with to us, is such a small like niche part of the overall market. Um, but I guess the CMA is saying that like it's rapidly growing the cloud gaming market, and I guess they're saying that in 10 years from now that it'll probably be because they're trying to look out, for the far future in this
Right.
decision. So like I guess their thinking is that in 10 years from now this will become a big enough market that like if we let this pass now, it will have like ramifications way down the line.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
You mind if I jump in there?
Yeah,
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 go ahead, go
go
ahead.
for it, either
Um,
go for it, just jump in.
what I find interesting, or what I have found interesting and funny, again, we have to parse the Twitterverse versus the reality of the world, right? Obviously, Microsoft has desires and inroads, and people have always given them credit for kind of seeing where the puck is going to be versus where it lies at the moment, right?
Yeah.
And putting broadband adapters in the Xbox, where most of the world was in dial-up, and pushing online gaming to a different level. So they're not stupid by any stretch. They understand where the markets are going to kind of go on certain things, right?
Right.
So cloud is small right now, but cloud is not going to stay small.
Yeah.
Just like, we went from dial up to cable. Cable looked like we're not going to get something much better there. Then here comes fiber. So the companies that knew where that was going to go are in better positions than some other companies, right?
Yeah.
Because you have monopolies on all these things depending on the region that you kind of go into. So I find it funny that people are sitting here now and saying, well, the CMA doesn't know what they're talking about because cloud is so small. Like, why are they even focused on that? Well, that's the whole point. It's a tech, it's an open tech that is growing, and 10 years goes by like that.
Right.
In general, but it goes by even faster in the tech world. And the only thing, and I said this on Twitter once, and I got pushback from like some Xbox people because for whatever reason in the Twitterverse, people buy into this thing of this consumer-friendly nature that Microsoft presents, and Microsoft, Xbox in particular, has really leaned into this consumer-friendly thing or idea of who they are. Like we're the good guys. We're the ones who are going to look out for you and take care of you. And I'm like, you can't trust a corporation. This week they're cool. A year later, they're not. Because regimes change, ideas change, philosophies change, and ultimately it all comes down to money, right? So while they're presenting the consumer friendly, the only thing I trust a corporation to do is when they start holding all the cards, is to mess it up.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't we? Because you can't get this anywhere else. You can't do this anywhere else. We're the ones that hold all the cards for it, so we can charge you what we want. We can cut this other thing out and you have no option to it. That's what the CMA is looking at.
Yeah.
It's like it's not a big enough sector to where people are really there to battle it. And look, Google tried with Stadia. Doesn't mean Google won't try again. Stadia didn't work out, but it doesn't mean that they won't try again, right?
Right.
Amazon is there. It doesn't mean that there's not a startup who is trying to get an inroad into it and actually make a name for themselves in the cloud space. Would they be able to do that if Microsoft already has a lock on all of it?
Right.
People have to take off the fanboy hat and the platform loyalty hat and really think about what it means to everything and everybody. And you're seeing the reaction from Microsoft tantruming.
Oh,
they
look really bad right now with, you have
Right.
Brad Smith out there making all these wild, like, he had this one quote where he was like, in our 4 decades of doing business here, there's never been a darker day than now, or darker time than now for us, or something like that. Like just like these
Right.
wild, outlandish like quotes, and then you have this this dude Bobby Kotick making the rounds as well, saying that the CMA doesn't know what they're doing and all these things. Is like, do you really want to be like antagonistic towards, the people that you're trying to like appeal to, right? Like,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And they're talking like, this is a dark day for tech and we're going to do this. And we're not, because you like money. And again, I don't understand. And who's telling the truth here, guys? Like on one side of it, when you have a debate and you push back, people say, if you say like, well, I don't care for this level of consolidation. I don't care for this level of acquisition. It's one thing to save a studio that is on the brink of extinction, a talented studio that can't keep the doors open because of how the market is. If you go to save them, I'm 100% for that. But I don't think mega corporations should be holding all the cards for publishers, right? If you say that, then people say, well, Microsoft didn't go after Activision. Activision came after them. Okay, point taken. Then why is Microsoft now acting like everything that they plan to do hinged on this deal?
Yeah.
There was a plan in place before this deal happened. You started Game Pass before this deal happened. You started acquiring studios before this deal happened. You bought one of the biggest publishers and removed them from the table before Activision Blizzard. Why are you now acting as if everything you wanted to do hinged on this? So maybe the CMA, maybe they're showing, maybe we were right about you guys, because the way you're acting right now, there was something more there, that all of this posturing that you were doing with these 10-year deals, which all of us, really, you're giving a 10-year Call of Duty deal to Nintendo for the Switch, when if that was really feasible right now, don't you think Activision would have already been there?
Yeah.
Because Bobby loves money.
It's a fair
money
point.
Out of the Switch. Right, but Bobby could have gotten money out of the Switch and had that thing running. He would have had it running there already.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
It's posturing. Look past the there's no such thing as good guys in consumerism and corporate America. The only thing you can trust is that they will screw it up. And I have people pushing back at me saying, well, what has Microsoft done to this point that leads you to think that way? I'm like, the Xbox One, from the 360 to the Xbox One. I look
Yeah,
at Sony, from the PS2 to the PS3. The only thing that they do
Yeah.
is when they feel they have it locked is mess it up.
yeah.
Because it's not about friends. It's not about they don't care. They want to separate you from your wallet. And that's what the CMA is trying to say. We're looking at what it could be long term because 10 years seems like a long time, but it really isn't. And tech moves so fast. And then when we get there, what is? It's a what if scenario. So if Microsoft really wants to keep making those inroads, nothing's stopping them. They're still one of the richest companies in the world. They can continue to push cloud and push into. They just said, we don't think this deal is advantageous to people trying to be successful. So now they can't go to ABK and negotiate a deal. They have to go through Microsoft, who can tell them to screw off
Yeah.
Yeah,
after the 10 years.
that's why before we talked about this, we rarely talk about this deal on the podcast, but the times we do is when there's major updates. I think the last time we did, I forgot the exact reason for why, but it was, I mentioned the point that just kind of sticks in my head since then is,
Hmm.
does Xbox see this deal totally worth it to them to be able to fight this hard for it? And it kind of goes back to the whole what you're saying before, Eve, that they wanted to seem kind of like the savior of Activision Blizzard because they're in dire straits, right? World of Warcraft
Right.
isn't a shitter. There are people leaving Blizzard for whatever reason, for because of work culture or workflow, whatever the case may be. So that,
They're making people return to the office. That's why no one wants to work at
Right.
Activision Blizzard right now.
yeah,
'Cause
Yeah, they're losing. They're losing people.
a
Right.
ton of talent. Yeah.
right. So they already have like a bad light. So Microsoft coming in and sort of quote unquote saving them, even though when that does happen, there's going to be layoffs indefinitely. Like there's
And no
absolutely
one,
going to
no one
happen.
wants to talk about that, Macho. No one talks about
Yeah,
that side of it. It's not going to be strawberries and cream for everybody.
Yeah.
yeah,
Which,
absolutely. Now
You know.
people are going to
yeah.
lose their jobs, and that's going to be a given. But there's also people that are probably going to benefit from being under a bigger company. But at the same time, I have to wonder if Microsoft really sees that as a thing worth fighting for. And at this point,
Right.
where they're going to be in litigation battles for years now, up until like maybe 2024 or even longer than that, I don't know if they're going
Hmm.
to see it as something that's worth it for them. Especially when they, at the end of the day, they still have to pay the 70 billion when they actually purchased the damn company.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's not looking good, and I don't think it's, if this deal falls through for Xbox, I think they won't go for any other publisher. They'll go for the smaller studios from here on out. But it really
They
brings,
should.
yeah, which they should, but it also brings into light of what's really on the horizon for Xbox other than their first party games that we haven't seen anything of since they first announced them.
Yeah, and that is, and guys, that's the question that I keep asking too. What was your plan before this thing happened? Because none of the ABK stuff should have anything to do with the studios that you've already acquired and being
Yeah.
able to talk to your audience about them and what the plan is. The plan should not have been, going into that last showcase that they did, and people were like all hype and excited and what they're going to show. And we're going to see this from Compulsion, and we're going to see this from this and this and this. And then it felt like a pivot because all of a sudden it was, this is what you're going to be playing for the next 12 months, and none of it was like really first party anything.
You
It
know
was
what's
like,
crazy is
mhm,
is that I feel like, and kind of think about it too, is that like when this thing was announced, what, January last year
mhm.
to now, I feel like we're still at the exact same spot with Xbox.
Which is
Right?
crazy, right?
Time
It's
has not
crazy.
moved for Xbox since they
Nothing's
released that
changed.
console, dog.
Nothing's changed, and you're right. You're 100% right. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's wild, man.
and that's
Um,
what I was trying to impart to people to say: if this goes through, fundamentally, I'm throwing up air quotes, nothing's changing. Call of Duty's still going to be on PlayStation. It's going to still be on Xbox. The only thing that fundamentally changes is whether you decide you want to play it in Game Pass, right?
Right.
yeah, yeah,
But will that truly make people move? And if this would have happened at the beginning of the last generation, 2013, I would have been like, this is going to be crazy. Why? Because at that point, you had a transition of, I would call it ecosystem. People are underestimating what ecosystem really means for people, right?
yeah,
I think Sony kind of hit the ground with that as far as the PS4 goes and the growth that they had. and getting people into an ecosystem. Now you got people locked into friends, games, trophies.
And
All
and
that stuff matters.
and Nintendo even did that even better with the Switch, right? I mean,
Right.
having that community.
Right. So that's something people legit think about. Like, is it worth it for me to leave where most of my friends play? And you're telling me that the thing is still here. And a lot of times, again, look outside of the Twitterverse. A lot of gamers have one or two things that they may play during the year.
Yeah.
Right? They're not like us who kind of gravitate and grab everything. Most, I would say, a good portion of gamers, two, maybe three. A lot of the times, a big multiplayer. It's usually the Call of Duties or the 2Ks or something like that, and then they'll sprinkle in a few games here and there. Now you're asking them, and time is a commodity as well. So I'm like, I mean, Game Pass is a good thing, and I understand what Microsoft is trying to do, but I don't understand the correlation of it's the Netflix of gaming. We don't consume games the same way we do movies and TV and music, for that matter, right? Games take a lot more in time investment, right? So it's sort of that thing where it's like, if you're asking somebody who buys a Call of Duty every year to now look at a subscription service, they're like, well, I don't have time to play all that stuff. So why am I going to subscribe? I'll just buy my Call of Duty and I'll run it into the ground until the next one comes out. And then it's still cheaper for me to buy this game here and buy this game there and continue moving. So I'm like, I don't know where people were getting this thing where it was going to automatically mean this huge win. It would definitely shift. It would be something of a seismic shift in general, but we don't have any tangible proof that it was going to be, 7.5 on the Richter scale seismic shift.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm like, hold on, guys, hold on for a minute. Don't get so crazy with this thing, and you were all bent out of shape that it's not going through and this and that. It's like, is it more important for this to happen because it's a benefit to you as a gamer, or is it just a benefit to you as Microsoft as a platform, and you're here to cap and you're here for the list war and the whole nine, So again, Brad Smith out here tantruming. It definitely felt like rich kid was told no.
Exactly. Same with
how dare you?
That one Activision person, like Lulu something. I don't know if you've seen her. Yeah.
Her with the meme of the Sony falling on the bicycle.
This is a person who's supposed to be a quote unquote like professional, and like some of the things that she says, bro, is just like, how did anyone ever like approve some of the things that she like tweets out? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
quite frankly, go ahead. So I'm sorry.
Just really quickly, like my biggest thing is just like the reactions. Like you already mentioned like Brad Smith and like what he's been saying, but like even like reading Activision Blizzard's response to the CMA's decision, it's just like they legit like threaten like the UK in the response, which is like it's just insane to me. Like with them saying, specifically, we will reassess our growth plans for the UK. And then, of course, obviously, the part of them saying the UK is clearly closed for business and whatnot. But, like, that is insane to say to a country.
Right. So what happened to the consumer friendly? We're the good guys. Where'd that go?
Yeah, exactly.
Out the window, right? And the thing is, I watch fanboys in particular when Lulu was out there doing her thing. And like you said, I said the same thing, like, man, this is showing me exactly who Activision still is.
Yeah.
Right? Because any other company would be like, Lulu, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, you're not helping. Stop it, right?
Exactly.
But people like championing her, like, oh my God, Lulu's owning them. I love this story. Look into Lulu's past, right? Lulu's out there trying to stop unions. She's out there. She's not handling at all any of the accusations that have happened at Activision, trying to make it a better company. But she's out here with everything to say about this deal, right? Why? Because she stands to gain a golden parachute from the deal.
I was about to say, she would probably get her golden parachute, but in the event that she didn't, what's so funny is that if this merger were to go through, I bet you she'd be fired like the minute that.
Oh yeah.
Shout out.
Why she's like, I got it lined up where I'm going to dip anyway, but hey, I'm going to leave with a whole lot of money.
Shout out to Jim Ryan, man. I don't want your deal. I just want to block your merger. That man stood on his square and he waited.
And you know what's funny, Macho? People were throwing that out there like, see, I'm like, see what? Your doy. Yeah, I don't want this to happen because we make a lot of money from Call of Duty and we like it the way it is. So yeah, we're gonna throw it out there. I'm not gonna begrudge him that because that's what he's supposed to do. But her reporting on that looks shady. Like what else was said in that meeting? You took that one portion and put that out there. What else was said? What did you say in that meeting?
Well, that's the thing too, is that we don't know the finer details of like what was the deal that was specifically offered to Sony, right? Everyone throws out the 10 years and they kind of stop there, but like what else was in that deal that Microsoft was trying to make with Sony?
Mm-hmm.
There were some in the goddamn 400 pages that the CMA released, detailing their decision and why they made it. There is a section in there detailing, I believe, the kind of deal that
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft gave
Mm-hmm.
to all of these other companies. They gave a similar one to Sony. I haven't read it specifically, but based off of like what some journalists were saying, they were like, "Oh, and I understand why Sony would not take this deal now."
Yeah.
So it's like that's why I always encourage people to like let's wait until we get all the facts. Let's not jump to conclusions because there's obviously there's a warranted reason why Sony would say no to this that we just don't know 100% yet. So like let's just wait for these things to come out. Um but
Exactly. And according to like some of those documents, it was a pretty egregious like deal
yeah,
as far as like and we knew like if this went under Microsoft's umbrella that of course, they're gonna get most of the publishing, most of the whatever. But it
right.
very much seemed like no, we're still gonna get most of the lion's share of this thing now. So I can see why, Jim was like, no, that's not gonna fly.
Yeah.
We'll take a chance because that's crazy. Because again, after 10 years, which goes by like that, then what? You could tell us to go to hell completely. If that's if Call of
Yeah.
Duty is still like the thing, which who knows? Things change like so fast.
Yeah.
But again, it's like the thing that drives me kind of crazy about it. It is what it is. Like acquisitions happen, things happen, but I kind of look at it like the quote unquote gamers, are doing things that kind of they're not looking at the big picture as far as what it could mean for their overall well being as consumers and gamers, right?
Yeah.
Like they're championing things that 15 years ago none of us as gamers would champion. They're championing government involvement.
Yeah.
Guys,
Yeah.
it's like, do you realize that the one of the last bastions that the government has been trying to get a foothold in is gaming, and they have not been able to do it. Gaming has done a really good job as an industry keeping them out,
Yeah.
right? They've been wanting to get in because anywhere they can get lobbying dollars and get their little groups into it, they want to do it. And here we are. I say we, them. Here they are finding inroads in, and you're opening the door to them to stick their noses in and get more involved now because
Yeah.
of this huge deal. And the moment this deal was announced, guys, I said, this is too big. It's not going to go unnoticed. That is a lot of money, and it's Call of Duty. It's two things that are going to put this thing on the grand stage. No one cared when it was Bethesda.
Yep. No one.
Yeah.
It was a tremendous amount of money in the grand scheme of things, but it was small because most of these people don't know anything about who Bethesda is. You've seen the trials going on with TikTok. They don't know what the hell they're talking about, but they know what Call of Duty is.
I was just about to bring up that like with Bethesda, you didn't see what's her name? I don't not Nancy Pelosi, the other one. You didn't see like
Oh,
her talking.
yeah,
Yeah, I forget her name, but like you didn't see like her talking about Bethesda. You didn't see Bernie Sanders talking about Bethesda. All these other Republican sort of like politicians or whatever, talk about Bethesda, but they were definitely making tweets about Activision Blizzard and the
Elizabeth Warren.
reason. Yep, that's her.
Yeah.
Um, and then also the whole like what was it, the representatives of like who are like taking like donations from like Microsoft or something like that, who are also like
Hmm.
that one guy who was like, hey, we should look into Sony's dominance in gaming in Japan or
Right.
whatever. Right, like those things, and I totally agree that this is getting too big, um, to the point that we are having government like looking into this, and
Hmm.
it's that we've never really had before, and that also
Right.
makes me like really really like weary and kind of concerned.
We're opening doors that we don't want to open
Yeah,
because
I
they've
remember Soul. I
always
remember
been trying to
Soul. You
get in.
said before too when we like did the emergency stream when this deal actually was announced. And
Yeah,
you're the first person to say in our group that this is like really scaring me because
Yeah.
what other doors can open after this? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
And it's always kind of, being like one of the older, I say older like guys in the community or whatever. I've seen a lot. I remember when senators were, and they still try to do it. It doesn't hit as hard these days because obviously the world's just crazier. But when violent things would happen, they would try to put it on gaming and try to get a foothold in that way, and it never really worked.
Yeah.
And that's where the ESRB came from, because it was like, okay, you guys want us to we'll regulate ourselves. You don't have to do it. We don't need you to regulate us. We'll regulate ourselves. And they created the ESRB to put ratings on games, mature, teen, all that stuff.
And not
Regulate
everybody on
themselves.
that board is like from gaming executives across America.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, we got this, guys. You don't have to come over here. We're good.
Right.
But now we're opening the door, and you got gamers who don't know any better because they want to do list wars and they want to protect the platform, where they're like they're going at any senator that is against the deal and championing the senators who are for it. And it's amazing, how many senators who had no idea what was going on are all of a sudden ready to fight in Microsoft's behalf. Why?
Yeah.
Well, just real quick too, I sent you guys in the chat. Thank you, Press Up, for actually bringing this to my attention. I did see this before, but at Pearl Rules on Twitter, they posted up like a block of a document that the CMA was able to find out where Microsoft actually kept 100% of the in-game purchases for cloud streaming.
Yeah.
Which
that was it.
Yeah, where platforms usually keep 30%, but in this case, Microsoft would keep 100% of all the revenue from that, which is, I mean, you can see why they'll be like, no, we're halting this right now. That's not. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens when that goes through, and then they're able to go and buy another big publisher?
Which is probably what Sony saw before. They're like, no, we're not gonna have that. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So again, it's not surprising that it didn't come down to Call of Duty, because at the end of the day, nothing's guaranteed in gaming as far as it's going to be hot. And Call of Duty has been hot for a long time, but it doesn't mean Call of Duty is going to be hot forever. But the catalog of ABK and all this other stuff, that's a big deal. That's Blizzard. And then again, of course, we know this was cloud beyond console. It was cloud, PC, and mobile as well. But let's bring it back for a second and think about it in terms of gamers. But this deal, because this is the other side of it I thought about too. I personally can sound fanboyish or whatever, but I was I don't feel like they've spoken to me since mid 360, so I'm very hard on them. But I was a big Microsoft fan. From the Xbox One through the 360, that was like my main platform. I've been off of PlayStation after Sony did what they did, starting off with the PS3. It took me a few years to get a PS3. I was like, they're on some bullshit. I can't even understand what they're talking about right now. You'll get a second job to get this console? Don't think so.
That was
you
some
guys
wild
figure
stuff,
that out,
man.
and I'll see you when you figure it out, right? And then watching Microsoft kind of take the same playbook when theoretically North America, they were dominant or whatever, taking the same playbook and doing the same thing. I was like, wait a minute, what happened? How'd you guys do this, right? And I don't feel like they've really spoken to me as far as diversity in their in their library and the whole nine since then. It was Call of Duty deals, Gears, and Halo. Well, not even really Halo at the time, but it was like that thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like they've been particularly well managing anything from that point up to now. So you're telling me the company that can barely manage their own studios, they can't get Halo out the door correctly and straight. Gears is pretty much taking care of itself, but my argument with Gears is it's not really evolved as a game over the years. It kind of feels like the same thing every time you get it, right? I like to see some evolution with it, but it's a solid game when it drops.
Mm-hmm.
But
Redfall releases in a couple of days, and it's like a trash fire for us PR wise.
Exactly. They're not managing anything that they already have in any meaningful way. So you're going to tell me now they're going to take one of the biggest publishers in the world, and that's going to go well?
Yeah.
Dudes have this mentality and this notion that the deal goes through on a Friday, come Monday is going to be Xanadu for people at Activision. No, it doesn't work that way.
To be fair to Blizzard, though, I think Overwatch 2 is kind of a mixed bag, but at the same time, there's so much success in that title. Because ever since it went free to play, I mean, the single player has been like non-existent, and that's what fans are really frustrated about. But everything else has been pretty pinpoint. And I'll be honest, man.
Yeah.
Diablo 4 it's gonna be a hit, The way they
Oh, it was so no, that beta was so good.
yeah,
You know?
the way they respond though to the community and
Yeah.
the updates are doing, the hour-long streams on the beta feedback and getting people excited, like this is the stuff I saw for Final Fantasy 14 back when they
Hmm.
rebooted the entire game. So they're making all the right moves for Diablo to hit. So they have talent there and they know how to manage
Yeah.
themselves. It's just the other properties that really need help and just their overall image with Call of Duty and stuff. And I'm not sure
Yep.
Microsoft's the right deal or the right partner to really help with them with that.
Yeah, and that will remain to be seen. And but
Yeah,
that's a very good fair point. You know, there's not all like terrible. They're under terrible management at Activision as well. Um, and I know Microsoft thinks the whole hands-off approach, but it's like to me, and another thing I've been kind of really talking about a lot on Twitter is culture. Like I think Microsoft finds themselves in so many positions in these positions because they don't have a culture around their games and culture like hip hop and rock and roll and different things breeds excitement in its fans, right? There's a culture that goes along with it that you're involved and you belong to something. And the culture, like you see from like a Sony and you see from like a Nintendo, they understand the culture of their IP and their games and how to bring that to you and make it exciting, right? You look at what they're, you know, Nintendo is about to launch Zelda and they got that thing everywhere and they permeate into your subconscious with it, right? And it's exciting and it's fun. It's like, oh man, even if you're not a fan of it and you're not really looking forward to it, you see it. It's like there. It's like a part of the mind share, right? You know, Sony does the thing like they understand the entertainment sides of it, you know, and that's their DNA, that's their creativity. They'll put a giant, you know, they'll put Kratos' axe in the middle of Denmark Square
Yeah.
for a couple of days for people to like go and take pictures with it, and then that's going viral, and it breeds that excitement. It's like I was there, I was a part of that. You know, when they're launching God of War 2018, halftime at I can't remember which basketball team it was. I think it was the Pacers or something. They're projecting the
I
game
remember
on
that.
the
Yeah.
floor.
That
So
was the
even if you don't
Warriors
know
game.
what the hell's going
Yeah.
on, yeah, Warrior. Okay, that's right. It was the Warrior. There you go. The Warriors, the hottest team
Yeah.
in that moment in 2018.
Yeah.
You're showing it, projecting it on the basketball floor. Yeah, you can show a trailer on the jumbotron above, but who the hell thought we're going to project it on the floor?
Yeah.
That
Where
breeds
whereas
culture.
in comparison, if I wasn't, in the Twitter gaming community, I wouldn't know
Mhm.
Redfall was coming out in a couple of
Right,
weeks, you know?
right.
So, yeah.
And then you look at and it's a shame because I love Arcane and I know they're trying. It's almost like they've kind of I'm not gonna say lost their way, and this has nothing to do with Microsoft. This is just Arcane trying to figure out who they want to be in the moment. And I want them to go back to Dishonored. That's me being selfish, I talked about earlier. But it's
Yeah.
like this thing where Microsoft executives in general love to talk on Twitter when it's like they want to share the numbers. You know, 12 million people did this, and then it's like biggest show ever coming up, and this and this and that, and they feel like that's enough to bring the culture. But then it's like when there's a Redfall debacle, you don't hear anything from any of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, are you throwing? You're putting them out there and you're throwing them under the bus. It's like there's an issue with them right now, but you're not giving any reassurance as to what that means. They still haven't answered what that means for when that 60 frames per second update is going to come.
yeah, yeah.
Or you come with the obligatory, "Hey guys, we know you're disappointed, but the Aaron Greenberg tweet, the Hi-Fi Rush thing. It's like Hi-Fi Rush to me, like you shadow drop that game. There should have been, you knew it was going to shadow drop. Maybe you didn't know what you had yet, but that's where you build the culture of saying, you don't know what this is, but we're excited for it. And because we're excited for it, we have merch. This thing is plastered all over Times Square. We're doing giveaways. We want to introduce you to Chai and the team because this is cool as hell, and no one else has this game right now. And this game that looks this way and plays this way and has this cool tone to it.
It
But you're
really
gonna get to
feels
know
like
these guys.
that game just kind of like came and went, and like that
Yep,
is without a doubt their best game in
Years, dude.
100.
oh,
Years.
I would say almost a decade, almost pretty close to that.
Right.
I mean, me and
Yep.
Wall praised that game to no end, man. Like
And
It's fantastic.
they should be
It's
shouting it from the
fantastic.
rooftops, like literally.
Right. And you know why so? You know why they should be shouting from the rooftops? Because for once, twofold is something completely different from Microsoft and
Yeah.
Tango.
Yeah.
I'm like, Tango made that? That's not what their DNA is from what we know of them.
Right.
Yeah, that
It should have been a
honestly
thing where
that should be
anyone
their
could
new
do it.
identity for this generation, man. Just
Yeah,
Hi-Fi Rush.
that
It's
game permeates. It permeates charm and culture from the music. The characters are fun. And you talk about beautiful, right? Just look at that game. I
yeah,
showed it to my wife. I'm like, come here, look at this. This is a game. She goes, what? And
yeah,
Horizon is what it is. It's gorgeous and beautiful, but that animation style on that is so flawless.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
that should be
That's
celebrated.
they should have went all in with, or at least should go on now with like an animated series again, merch like you
Yeah.
said. Yeah, they should go all in with that. But if yeah, no, it really sucks that they even hear that because I love that game so much, and they
It is
do
so good,
they
man.
do a couple
It's
updates
really
here
good.
and there for photo mode, but like yeah, like really hammer in like this is something you can play on our platform, only us, and then obviously
Yeah.
PC too. But like man, that I don't know if that's a system seller, but it would have been for me.
But and it's the thing. Maybe it's not a system seller, but you know how you start to get into the world of system seller is you start letting people feel like you have the coolest shit to give them.
Yeah,
It may
absolutely.
not hit right away, but you start to plant the seeds of culture. We're excited about our games, and this is why you should be too. But that's not what they do. They take it like grant, like it's like a given. Like we'll spend all the money in the world to acquire this, but we're not going to really,
Market these
we're not going to
games.
really push it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should want it, right? We spent the money on it. You should want to come and get it. It's in Game Pass. You should want to come. It doesn't work that gamers don't work that way.
Right.
Grant, yeah, there are the games that hit every year that get their excitement because we already know what it is. It's earned our respect, right? But think
Yeah.
about it like this: the excitement of Shadow dropping Hi-Fi Rush came out of nowhere. That was a beautiful thing. You don't get many moments like that where you have the attention. So now where you see like Best Buy has like the big things in their window of like for Zelda coming up, right? So
Yeah.
imagine you have some images and some stands within the store. And people are like, what's Hi-Fi Rush? Oh man, that's this new game from Microsoft, and you didn't do any physical copies. I get it because you want people to get a shadow drop. You wanted to go to Game Pass or whatever, but you start kind of having people wonder, what is that? That looks pretty interesting. That's pretty cool looking.
This
You
is
start to push it that way.
this is so funny because like I a few months back I did like a project on like Sony's marketing with like some of their
Hmm.
games and whatnot. And I feel like Nintendo is like very much the same way with how they market their games as well. But like just comparing Sony to Microsoft in this aspect, it's like, yeah, you better believe you're going to see Spider-Man 2 plastered on New York subway
Yep.
trains, right?
Yep.
And they did the same thing with Last of Us Part 2 as well and God of War
Right.
Ragnarok. They for I think leading up to Forbidden West, they had a bunch of like Claw Strider statues like in all these like random locations.
Yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
also had like a giant like Aloy statue in somewhere in Italy. Um yeah, so like they had that. They oh god, what was the other one? There was like at E3 one year they had like this competition where like they would give you something if you like shaved your head completely bald like Kratos, and they would
Uh,
put the paint on the I think the left side or right side of your face, right, to look like Kratos. But like they do all these like there was also the whole commercial that they had in partnership with I think UEFA, where they literally had characters like Ratchet and Clank, Aloy, and I think Kratos running on a goddamn soccer field with soccer players. And it's just like they do, and that feels like very much like Nintendo, like how they market like some of their things. But it's just like they
right.
do. Both of these companies do all these like wacky and like really cool things to like promote and tell people that, hey, look at our games, like like you should be playing these games, right? It's just like I
Yeah.
feel like I just never see Microsoft talk about their games in the same way or like with as much enthusiasm as these other two companies do, I feel like, you know?
Hmm.
Um so yeah, I don't know, man. It's weird, man.
Yeah. That when you're laying that out. So what comes to my mind? It's sort of like you said. It's embracing like the enthusiasm. It's
Yeah.
showing the fun side. Games are supposed to be fun. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, they're fun and entertainment, right?
Yeah.
So you face that, and then sorry, means the excitement, right?
Yeah.
But with Microsoft, it's almost like, is Windows exciting when you talk about Windows? They treat their games the same way. There's nothing exciting about Windows. There's something exciting about games, but you can't treat them the same way. Yes, you can be a services company, but you have to have a different culture when it comes to your games. And it's not a given. Windows is a given because most people, that's the operating system they're going to use, is that or Mac OS, right? But even Apple has a way of making their system fun. You know, they have fun with it. Their commercials are fun. It's vibrant. It's bright. It's showing this is where you need to be, guys. This is the cool shit.
Yeah, yeah,
It's an operating
absolutely.
system. It's an ecosystem, but our products are awesome and fun. Apple over here, you know, Microsoft is like, yeah, we do Windows. Okay, and that's how their games come across. It's like it's a given, but it's not a culture. And until they understand that, until they get that, they're going to find themselves in these same positions.
Yep. Yeah, they're definitely not going to move the needle if they like continue to do that. So, Aaron Greenberg, get your act together, man. Stop talking on Twitter.
Stop crossing your arms like a dork. Just get to work, buddy.
The X symbol.
They talk to us. They're always answering. Don't talk to me. Go work.
That's another thing too, is that I feel like you don't see any of Sony's like executives on Twitter like talking to
No,
us, right? Like they
they
are
yeah,
silent.
they did it. They did it a little bit more, like I would say, in the early PS4, and then all of a
Right.
sudden, it's like they stopped and they just got to work.
They were tired of us, man.
Yeah, it's like I could be here talking to you and making you feel better, and then coming with the obligatory, yeah, we know you were disappointed, but hey, just hang in there. We got something exciting coming up. What does that sound like?
Oh
No,
man.
don't give me sorries. Go work.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So that is the whole CMA blocking Activision Blizzard. This is definitely not the last time we're gonna hear about this.
No, we're not
So
done.
yeah, which is kind of like the unfortunate thing is that like we've been told for like weeks that hey, the final decision is coming, pretty soon, and they're probably gonna approve it. It felt like we were kind of getting close to this whole thing being over, and now it's like nope, we're gonna have to. This thing is gonna be dragged on until 2024 most likely.
I
So
was so eager, man. It's like when school gives you a week for when the last week of school is, and they're like, "Oh wait, we have to make up for snow days." I'm just like, "God damn it!"
Right.
um, but yeah, man. So that's that. We only have a few more topics to get through before we get out of here. Did anyone watch the Armored Core 6 trailer?
I did. I caught it. E, what about you? Did you watch? I think it's like
No,
three
I
or
didn't.
four
I didn't
minutes.
catch it. No, I didn't catch it.
Macho, what did you think about it?
I don't know what to think about, to be honest, because I saw it, I was like, okay, cool, robots doing cool things. Like, that's honestly where my brain went with it. I didn't really get interested in it until I saw Gene Park's tweet that, knowing FromSoft and sort of their RPG background, that Armored Core, what this can essentially be is like your own mech, your own robot, in the flavor of big boss battles and how you can like attack them and go about actually into battle strategy with them. So, and just big climatic boss fights too, that looked really cool in the trailer. So like it had this spectacle, and it actually looked really good too. Like graphically, it actually looked way better than Elden Ring. So I'm slightly more interested. I'm not really a big huge like tech like huge monster tech kind of guy, really. But it looks fun. I'll look at some more gameplay videos. I'm not sure if I'll play it, but I definitely want to see people play it and see how they tackle different builds, if that's the case with this game. But so, did you watch it? And
Yeah, I did. And I kind of agree. Like mechs have never really done it for me. So I think it art wise it always from software it always knocks that aspect of their games out of the park. Um, but yeah, I just don't have much interest in playing as a mech. Like, those things have never really done it for me. So yeah, this may actually be like a skip for me. Um,
yeah, same.
yeah, I don't know if you're there, but what about you? Does this game look like remotely interesting to you or not? If you're there, because I know, yeah, you're muted. was like, there you are, but no, you're breaking up a little bit.
About that better.
Okay, yeah, you're good.
I'm having some headphone issues. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, you're good.
So no, I've never been like a huge mech game like guy. So this isn't like high on my radar. I do know people who are, but yeah, it's not really like my jam.
Yeah,
So yeah, because even back in the day, like Mech Warrior, like on Xbox Live and stuff, that was like a big one for people. But yeah, it's never really been like my thing.
yeah. Yeah, it's I think the most insane thing to me is that goddamn, this thing is coming out this year too. Like goddamn, like
You can say another one.
right? Like just again, 2023 just being one of the most stacked years. And the fact that this is coming like a year and some change after Elden Ring is wild. I think their DLC for Elden Ring is also coming out this year too. So like, man, yeah, they're they're putting them boys to work over there, man.
It's
Like,
the it's the Dark Souls from software, the Dark Souls gaming experience they talked about earlier.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what to make this even crazier is that like this game isn't being directed by Miyazaki, so he's off working on his own thing, right? So
Right.
they have another thing cooking, so we'll probably see that sometime soon as well. So
At the
yeah, man.
at the PlayStation Showcase. I swear.
Oh man, don't get me
Those
excited.
boys
Man.
are busy. I think we could put to bed too, like probably any talks. Remember how before the rumors and talks were like they were going to be acquired by somebody?
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
Elden Ring kind of put that to bed. They're like, nah, we're good.
yeah, probably.
We're
More
good
Yeah.
over here.
Um, but yeah, man. So that's Armored Core. I bet Masha, if Walt's little dummy self was in here, he'd be like, oh my god, Armored Core. Oh my god, I can't wait.
That man loves his mechs, man. He loves them robots and he loves when they shoot things and yeah, he's all about that. So I'm sure
That's
he's
why
all over it.
that's why he screams every time in Power Rangers when they all get together and they transform to the giant robot. Yeah, that's why that's his favorite part, man.
Smurfing time.
Um, but yeah, man. So that's Armored Core. Really quickly, there's some Horizon stuff with Angie Smets. Got another Gorilla person moving up from that studio into an executive position at PlayStation. So congrats to her. She was at Gorilla for like 20 years, which is nuts. Um,
Wow.
so really, really good promotion for her. And so there was like some additional like reshuffling in Gorilla. One of the studio heads, Michelle, he kind of like he's no longer gonna be a studio head, and he's like moving to like full time, just focusing on the Decima engine, which he's like really excited about. Like that studio is like really doubling down on that engine, and I think it makes you wonder if they will get to a point if they start licensing out that engine more to like other studios and not just Kojima Productions.
I think they will. That's gonna be. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm sorry to interrupt too, but
No, go, go.
I think that was gonna be a. I think that that's going to be really important for PlayStation going forward. Like not just licensing out, but also for other PlayStation games as well. Because if you look at Capcom, when they have their RE engine, that thing is just so beautiful on any platform you play it on. It's just such a beautiful engine. It looks beautiful. It plays great. And Street Fighter 6 even use that engine, so really it really like kind of tells you how like versatile that thing is. And Decima just might be the same way. I'm not because correct me if I'm wrong, but was Killzone on Decima?
Shadowfall was. I don't know if the prior ones were.
Okay.
Until Dawn was also on Decima.
Oh really?
Yeah, I believe.
Yep.
Oh wow. Okay, then yeah, there you go. I think that if that engine is as versatile as we think it is, then I think it's gonna be really important for PlayStation going forward. Especially since we're seeing, as you mentioned before, so we're seeing some promotions from Gorilla going to the actual PlayStation proper, and yeah. So I wonder how they're gonna utilize that, whether it's licensing out or using it for other PlayStation IP, whether it's from like from Haven or for Firewalk Studios or what the case may be. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do with that because that engine is just sings on PS5. I mean, look at Horizon Forbidden West. there's no argument. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's like the best looking game on that platform and runs
Mhm.
incredibly smooth.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yep.
then I think also we got kind of like a tease slash confirmation that yeah, Horizon there will be like a Horizon 3, which I don't think any of us had really doubted, right?
Right.
um,
No,
but
they have faith in Horizon, man. That's for sure.
yeah, for sure. I need them going in space, man, for the next one. I need that. I need them going up
Oh
there for
man.
sure. That'd be
Yeah. Yeah.
sick. But and it's cool like having like a little tease of like what Horizon can be on just PS5 here with Burning Shores.
Yeah.
Just imagining what Horizon 3 is gonna be like. Being built from the ground up on PS5, I think is gonna be. I think it's really gonna like blow us away. I feel like so.
Yeah.
Very excited for that.
I agree. And it's time. It's really time, like to get into these machines and show what they can,
Yeah,
what they can do. So I'm more and more, that's exciting me more and more to start kind of leaving the path behind,
yeah,
moving
definitely.
forward. So
Um, so I think Macho, you want to talk about the Firewalk Studios acquisition?
Other than the fact they acquire them and it's a get. It's another studio that we see from PlayStation where we don't see a project at all, but they acquire the studio. So
right.
so I know you brought this in before too. What kind of confidence they have that they buy a studio before the project has even been announced for mass public? You
I
know?
mean, obviously, yeah, they've seen something behind closed doors that they like. It's like one of those things too where like they've worked, um, obviously not to the extent of like a Housemark, Bluepoint, or Insomniac, but like they have been working. I think Herman said that he first like played their game in like 2018 or something like that. Um, so like they have been working together for like a number of years already. So like obviously they both like that relationship. So they just finally said like yeah, let's make it official, I guess.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I mean there's definitely that thing where they haven't, we haven't seen the game, so like honestly, how excited could we get about this? But it's enough
Right.
for Sony to be excited about. So I guess that's the main thing right there.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think it's the thing too, where it's like they have to move faster when it comes to some of these acquisitions because that's just the reality. Like
yeah,
it's like the real estate market. When it's hot and people are selling and buying, it's like it makes you move faster than what you plan to, whether you're going to try to buy a house or sell your house.
yeah,
So it's sort of that thing too. It's like where before they may have taken it a little slower. Hey, we'll get your game out there. We'll see how things go. And the organic growth that we always talk about when it comes to Sony.
right.
It's sort of like seeing acquisitions happening and other companies out there buying studios. Like if you see something that you think might work, you need to go ahead and lock it in.
Right, right.
Yeah, and
You
all
know,
and all that came before for the Firewalk announcement. All that came before the announcement with Sony's the success of the PS5, right? Selling a record amount of
mm-hmm.
PS5s within the first quarter of the year. Um, outpacing PS4, but on the heels of PS2 sales. And on top of that, I think it was the CEO that said this or something like that, that they're going to increase their acquisition spending by 20%. So, to
Yeah.
your point, E, yeah, they're going to be moving that ball a little quicker
Mm-hmm.
this year.
Yep, yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, last topic that I wanted to kind of bring to the table was so obviously we've seen some articles being posted about $70 games and that potentially um Sony and Activision seeing a dip in overall like game sales and the $70 may be contributing to that.
Right.
mm-hmm.
Um, so I wanted to ask you guys, so far in this generation, have you noticed like a change in the amount of games that you're buying when you decide to actually get a game? Because like I know for me, it has changed dramatically. Obviously, for things like a Horizon, an Elden Ring, God of War, even like a Plague Tale, like there are games where I am there day one,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's like other games where I really, really want to play, like a Dead Space or a Resident Evil 4 remake that I still haven't gotten. And it's such a change from the PS4 era because like I was thinking back to 2017, which is like my favorite year ever in gaming. That first half of the year for me was Gravity Rush 2, Yakuza 0, Resident Evil 7, all in January.
Oh
February
yeah,
you had
yeah.
Horizon. March you had Nier Automata, and in April you had Persona 5, and then obviously you had Zelda in March and the Switch in March as well, right? That was just the first half of that year, and like for those like couple months, I bought like I don't know something like 6 or 7 games, right?
Hmm.
Um, Essentially day one or at least close to day one. So like just to see like that comparing it to where I'm at now, where like even to Chia that released on that indie game that released on PlayStation Plus. Like I don't know if I would have bought that if it wasn't for PlayStation Plus. So like
Yeah.
Hmm.
it's I don't know. It's and I know it's I said in quotations only $10 more, but that $10 it means a lot for a college student like me. So like
Yeah.
where are you guys at in terms of that? Are you guys about the same in terms of like the volume of games that you're buying, or have you noticed that it's gone down or it's gone up? Like where are you guys at?
Kick it off, I want to hear what you have to say because you actually, I mean, I have a career and a family, quote unquote, but you actually have a daughter. You actually,
Hmm.
you're in a different situation than I am, so I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. I think it's kind of harder for me to gauge. Is I would say this. What I can say is seeing a game at 70, if it's a game that I really want to play, it hasn't stopped me from getting the game. Like I will look and go, okay, well, this game I do want day one and I'll play it, right? So it hasn't stopped me in terms of that. I think what stopped me more than anything is like there's so many and my time has been really stretched, right?
Right.
Um and so like for me, like by the time I do get around to a game, it's already dropped in price. I'm not really seeing the hit on that, but I do. But trust me when I say when I go into the store and I look and I'll go, damn, I'm not used to seeing that. I'm used to seeing that 59.99,
Right.
or whatever it is. It's like I'm seeing 69.99. Oh, it is there. There it is, $70, right?
Yeah.
But like Horizon, and I will admit I did buy Dead Space. I haven't even started yet, so I did pay the 70 for that.
Yeah.
And same thing with Resident Evil 4. So I guess to answer your question, no, it hasn't stopped me, but I do notice it, if
Gotcha.
that makes sense,
What about you, Macho?
right?
Because I know like June is coming up, and that's a month where three major titles that I think probably all of us want to play with Street Fighter, Final Fantasy, and Diablo. Like, so what about you, man? Have you noticed any changes?
Yeah, I mean, because it's tough because when I used to review games at lordsofgaming.net, I used to always have it in the scope of if this game is worth your your time, or and B, your money. It was really easy to answer whether it's worth your money based on content, quality, and consistent in both of those aspects. But for time, it's a lot different because it's based on subjective tastes, right? So I've really leaned more towards the fact that I don't have a lot of time to play these games, but when I do, I will buy them. And the $70 doesn't really deter me because I feel like I'm sort of used to paying that because I would pay for the deluxe editions for games. Like I paid $70 for a Resident Evil 4 remake. I haven't even touched it yet, but I don't feel pain and regret, pain and regret from buying it because I know it's a quality game
Yeah,
that's waiting for me. But to that
yeah,
point,
that's same for me, Macho.
yeah, but to that point, I will hold off on a $70 purchase of Diablo, not only because I rarely have the time to to really dive into that game along with Street Fighter 6 and then Resident Evil coming off of that, and then we're just coming off the bat of Zelda, right? So
Yeah.
not even talking about time there, but it's also a $70 game that I know it's gonna be worth it. I know the quality is gonna be there, but man, I just paid the most expensive edition for Street Fighter 6 that comes with the year pass. That's
Right.
$110. Um, I paid $420 for the collection edition for Final Fantasy 16.
That
So
that's the other thing too, is that like for me, collector's editions, that shit has stopped. Like I got like I'm looking right here, my The Last of Us Part 2 collector's edition that I have. I had God of War 2018 Collector's Edition and the Horizon Zero Dawn Collector's Edition. I had one for Persona 5, and like ever since this generation, dude, like that has stopped.
Right,
I
right.
don't blame you. I mean, because now they're getting really stingy with it. Because even Diablo 4 has a really, I think it's Diablo 4 and even Baldur's Gate 3. They have their expensive statue collector's edition,
Oh
but with
yeah,
Diablo
Hmm.
4, I don't think that even comes with the game.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
It's the other side, yeah.
and
And
then
they are getting kind of ridiculous with these collector's editions, man. Like 400, 500. Well, not 500, it's like $400 depending on what it is and stuff like
Yep.
that.
oh,
That ain't worth it for you.
I'm getting bit in the ass with Final Fantasy 16, dude, because it's a Square Enix store exclusive, so it was already overpriced
Oh,
already
okay.
at 350, but the
Right.
shipping, I kid you not, was $40.
That's, yeah.
So that's
That
a,
should be free shipping. I'm sorry. That should be free shipping on something like
you
that, man.
you're telling me, dog. So
Yeah.
it's already an expensive endeavor. So like that month alone, I'm spending a lot already. And then so they just announced the controller and the faceplate for PS5.
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I know it's Japan exclusive, but you know if they announce it, you know what I'm gonna do, man. Like
You're gonna
there's
have to
Yep.
get that imported, man.
But
so
there you go.
Diablo.
That's the excitement and culture of it, man.
So it's not
Yeah,
even the fact that the price of Diablo 4 is off the table, it's the time, but now it really is the price because I'm
yeah,
already spending so much that month. So it is making me apprehensive to answer your question. Yeah, like it just depends on what I'm spending on that month. Like for this month in
Yeah.
general, for April, I didn't I didn't really spend that much money on when it comes to games, honestly, because nothing I really had was like in the pipeline that I could recall in my head, really. So Jedi would have been an impulse buy that I've been okay with, but we already talked before how why I didn't. But yeah, I
Hmm.
guess
yeah,
so. The price doesn't really deter me as much anymore, since it's more about do I have the time, and if I don't have the time, then why am I going to spend the money?
Yeah,
right.
that's pretty much where I fall. But like I said, I still notice it. I look at it and go, oh, that's 69.99 there now. For
Yeah, and
the
that's
other.
with tax. That's
So
like $75 up here in New York.
right,
So yeah,
right. But like Macho said too, like for me, where it probably gets buried for me is I do a lot of collector's editions because I'm like a steelbook nut. So if there's a collector's edition of a steelbook, and I know sometimes you run the risk. You say, oh, I'll wait and see what happens, and then it's not available anymore. And then sometimes you go right out and get it, and then like months later, like a Best Buy is like giving them away for $2. It just depends.
yeah,
So sometimes that's where my cost gets buried because I went ahead and got a collector's edition of something. So I'm not even looking at the 70 part of it because I already paid the 200, 300, whatever it is to get this and that. And I don't ever usually regret anything, but there are games that I've purchased that have sat there until I got to them. And I'm like, yeah, I probably could have held off and gotten it like cheaper, but it's never a thing where I'm like, where I don't know. I'm not a person. I'm not gonna sit here and sound like I'm defending the $7 games. I
Yeah,
understand why they would go up. I get it. I'm
yeah,
not sitting here saying and I don't think people see the difference in that because when you say I get it, they go, "Well, why are you defending companies?" I'm like, I'm not defending the company. I don't ever want to pay more for something ever.
yeah,
That's not human nature. But you understand how the world works. You understand the way of it. And
yeah,
people say, "Well, you think it's worth it?" I can't say what's worth it. What's worth something to you is not worth it to me. That's on a lot of them.
yeah. That's why I'm
You
glad
know.
you held off on Forspoken and actually got with that GameStop deal. I did see you buy
Oh
the buy one get one free or
yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was the deal. Octopath Travel 2 and Forspoken for $45. Like that's good.
oh man,
Yeah. That was a no brainer on that one because I almost did the same thing. Like I remember you went out and grabbed it. I almost did the same thing, and I was kind of like, I don't even know when I'm going to get to it. Is more than anything. So time for me is more the issue than even buying games. Like, of course, I always want to
Yeah.
buy a game that's cheaper. I love when I get a good deal on something. I love it. Like, buy one get one is beautiful. But then I'm like, okay, I'm willing to do that one because I do want to play Octopath Traveler 2. And that's how I essentially looked at it. Like that to me, I know that game is going to be it was worth the normal asking price, but now I got that on sale and I've essentially got a free copy for folks,
Yeah. Yeah, can't beat that,
you
man.
know?
Can't beat that.
Right, right.
and then I think there's also for me the thing like I and Masha, I've been trying to I've been saying for probably months now that I want to get into Gran Turismo 7. Like I want to I want to do it
Mhm.
because of the videos that I watch on YouTube all the time. And like I think Sony's taking a page out of Nintendo and they're doing that Nintendo tax because I haven't seen that $70 come down at Oh, dude, on the PlayStation Store.
Oh, on the
Um,
store, yeah, I know. I know. In
yeah,
retail, they have for like $40 and stuff like that, like Best Buy. But you got to take the plunge and go for physical if you don't want the if you know if unless you're sticking
yeah,
with digital. But
I might have to do that then. Um,
Yeah,
but
I'm
yeah,
noticing those digital prices aren't coming down as fast as they used to. Back in,
yeah,
remember, like in PS4 gen, like they would have deep sales, like right
yeah,
off the. It
dude.
depends on the game too, but in some cases they go, "Hey, here's 15, 20% off." And I'm like, you can't go any deeper than that.
yeah, unless you're Ubisoft. But other than that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you can hold off a month, no, off a week for their game, and it's like
Yep.
next to nothing, you know.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, man, interesting discussion, man. Cause yeah, I saw that come up on the timeline, and I was, I kind of sat back and thought about it. And I was like, man, like even just thinking about this year, like I've only got in terms of like a day one purchase, like Hogwarts Legacy, and then like a bunch of like backlog games that are like less than $20. That's pretty much
Hmm.
been my 2023. Um, even though I want to play RE4 and Dead Space remake and stuff like that. So yeah, it was definitely something that I've noticed, and yeah, I'm glad that we talked about it for sure.
Yeah, we're
Yes,
gonna start to
definitely,
really
especially like
pitch
when
it.
you were in college. I get it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
we're gonna be really pitching pennies in June, man. It's gonna be tough.
It's about to get worse,
Yeah,
man.
I know,
yeah,
I know.
yeah.
I'm there day one for Zelda too. That's I know people had debates for whether that should be $70 or not, but man, I ain't gonna front that.
There,
That looks to
there's
be
there's
worth
some
70 for me.
yeah, there's some games where you kind of like look at it and like the hours that you're gonna get out of it, and you're kind of like, okay, like sure, I don't mind paying that much for it
Right,
because I know the enjoyment I'm gonna get from it is like well worth it.
100%.
Um, yeah. There's games like The Witcher 3 and Persona 5 that I would pay $100 for those, and I would be okay with that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I agree with that.
yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah. So that's gonna do it for the podcast today, man. For DualShock and Sense episode 98. Before we get out of here and do our little intro or outros, once again I want to remind everyone to go ahead and like the podcast, share it out, consider subscribing. Once again, thank you to everyone who subscribed during the show. Really, really appreciate that. And thank you to all the live viewers that we had rolling in. And whether you watched live or are coming after the fact, we always appreciate that as well. So yeah. E, why don't you kick things off, man? Thank you for coming through. I know me and Macho like really, really appreciate it. Um, do you have anything you want to plug? Where can people find you? All that good stuff, man.
Let me first say, guys, thank you for having me. It's been a true honor, man. It's been a great time to sit here talking with you guys. Great discussion, and I don't know. I always love talking to guys like gamers who just have like an open sense of everything. It's not about fanboying out. It's not about overprotection of platforms and executives. It's just enjoying the culture of gaming. I want to keep hammering that home. Culture. It's all
Yeah,
culture, man. Like we're in the same thing together. Like we enjoy the same hobby. I'm not against anybody. I'm not attacking anything if I'm critical, if I'm praising, you know. And I think people get too far into that, too far into tribalism. So it's always good to just chop it up with people who have the same mentality and share the same thing. So thank you again, guys, for having me. I appreciate it. But
really
other than that,
anytime,
people
dude.
can. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, people can find me on Twitter, EC Jackson with an X. Yeah, just kind of running around there. Like Macho said, like also will say, like I just try to make people laugh, just have a good time because life's hard enough, man. So it's just laugh at some things. It's okay.
Yeah, for sure. We will definitely have your Twitter and all that good stuff in the description below in case anyone wants to follow him.
Thank you,
Um,
thank you.
yeah, of course. Macho, what about you, man? What do you got going on?
So today we'll see if Walt can wipe the crust off his eyes and anywhere else on his body parts, so that we can play
Nice.
Stranger of Paradise tonight. Uh,
Oh
we
yeah, I forgot.
Oh,
Yo,
that's
playing.
another one I just added to my backlog, man. It was $20 at Target.
Oh, bro! If you ever decide to jump in, let me and Walt know. We're playing. We're trying to get Soul to play. He's not having it, but we need a third person. So if you want to jump in, play with us. I'll add you on PSN.
Yeah,
We'll jump into 3 player.
most def, most def. My,
Um,
my 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 PSN is the same as my Twitter handle.
Dope. Okay, cool. I'll add you. Yeah, we can play some games. That'll be fun. But yeah, so we're gonna try and play through that because me and Walt, not any rush for you. E. You can play whenever you want, but if you decide you want to play it, just let me or Walt know. I'll jump on. I don't care. But we're gonna try and beat Stranger of Paradise at least before Zelda. That's the goal, right? That we got at least 2 weeks to do that with. And with me being sick and Walt being really busy with work and just life stuff for the past couple weeks, we haven't been able to make any dent in that game. But looking forward to playing more of that. Xenoblade 3 hype. So excited just to get back to it. And then, oh yeah, dude. So Marvel Midnight Suns next week. They put out a tweet, and Storm is possibly coming next week, or at least sometime in May. And I'm just so pumped, man. Like that game's been so much fun. The DLC characters have been amazing. I can't wait for Storm to actually drop into the game and I can play that. I'm so ready to just mesh her out with the team. It's gonna be so cool.
You gonna do some bird watching with her, or like yoga or something like that, or is she gonna talk about her feelings or something with you?
Listen, me and Wolverine had a real heart to heart the other day, and it was beautiful. I think see if I want to know. Actually, that's a good point. I wonder if Soul's or not Soul. I wonder if Storm's gonna talk about her home origins and whether she was going to go for that. I wonder if we're gonna go from that. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. So Stranger Paradise, probably Marvel Midnight Suns next week, and Xenoblade 3, and then chip away at Octopath before Zelda in a couple of weeks. So it's gonna be a really fun week of gaming, man. I'm really excited. And just for everybody out there that's listening, the 2 people watching, including myself and one other person in the stream, just to let you know, Final Fantasy 14 Star Edition. All right, you can download for free. You can get the free expansion to Heaven's Sword up to level 60 with unlimited amount of playtime. But you can also download the Stormblood expansion for free, and it's amazing. The music's great. It's awesome. So it's gonna be free until May 28th. So they actually extended the availability for this thing to download. So go and do that. Go and get sucked into Final Fantasy 14. I'll see you online.
You ain't seen no one online, dude. But yeah, as for me, more Dishonored and Burning Shores. Really excited to like. You guys ever have like that kind of thing where you haven't played a game in a really long time, and then you kind of get back into the swing of things, and you're like, oh yeah, like I
Yep.
really love this game.
That was Xenoblade
Yep.
3, man. I jumped into it and I was like, jeez, I missed this.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
had a moment
Feeling that with
last.
Burning Shores.
Yeah, like I had a moment last night with Burning Shores where it was like your first combat encounter with like one of those like hippo kind of machines, and
Mhm.
Oh, those are
I'm
cool.
like, yeah, and I'm like running away from it, and I grapple onto like one of those those posts, and then like I leap off of it, immediately transition to a sunwing, hop off the sunwing, and then like slow motion use my bow while I'm still in the air and like do like a killing
Oh,
shot on
hell
it. And it's
yeah.
just like I'm like, oh yeah, dude, I forgot how good this game is.
So what did I say at the top of the show? You can
Exactly.
say you're not a big fan, but you can't look at that and say it's boring.
Exactly, man. Like just look at a Sunhee Legend video of him
Oh
playing
man.
Forbidden West, man. It's like, come on,
Yeah.
man. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, playing definitely more of that, and that's probably about it for me. I'm really gonna try my best to get to Dead Space before Diablo, I think. So stay tuned for that. But
I think you can
yeah.
do it. I think you can do it.
Yeah, I think I can too, because it's not that long of a game. So, yeah. But yeah, that's gonna do it for the DualShock and Sense crew. Thank you guys for watching, and yeah, we will catch you guys later. Peace out.